Mustache? No. Sideburns? No. Goatee? Maybe. Beard? Beard! Feel neglected? Not doing too well with the ladies? Well, I've got the solution for you! Low self-esteem? Grow a beard! Afraid to follow your dreams? Grow a beard! Are you lonely and sad? Grow a beard! You wanna look good and glad? Grow a beard! Are you working out? Grow a beard! Did your car break down? Grow a beard! Ice caps melting? Grow a beard! Are you stuck in the middle of nowhere and you need to make an important phone call but the battery's dead and you can't find an outlet to plug in your charger? Grow a beard! The beard, feed the beard, brush the beard, manscape the beard, stroke the beard, love the beard, fear the beard, obey the beard, obey the beard, obey the beard, behold the beard, obey the beard, accept the beard, obey the beard, respect the beard, obey the beard.
Oh my God. Becky, look at his beard. It's just so beard.
Your enemies with the beard. Catch a fish with the beard. Roundhouse kick with the beard. Troll the nets with the beard. Chia pet, chia beard. Drive a truck with the beard. Try your luck with the beard. Arm wrestle with the beard. Teenage Mutant Ninja beard. Pet the doggy with the beard. Pledge allegiance to the beard. Can't grow a beard, then buy a beard. Do you have a beard? Then grow more beard.
You need to shave this thing.
Shut up, Grandma! Grow a beard! Dump in the beard, drink to the beard, cause beards are good and scruff! Obey the beard! Behold the beard! Obey the beard! Accept the beard! Obey the beard! Respect the beard! Obey the beard! I was so empty and lost inside till I grew you. I put my faith in my facial hair to get me through. Well, I can defy the odds again and again with you on my chin. With every moment you grow closer and closer to my heart. I love you, beard.
If you love it so much, why don't you just marry it?
Do you take this beard to be your lawfully wedded beard? For bearded or for worse, its scruffiness in a beard till shave do you part? I beard. Abe Lincoln had a beard. ZZ Top, epic beard. Dimebag Darrell, nettle beard. Chuck Norris, kick-ass beard. I'm the one making beard. Chewbacca is a beard. Santa Claus, Jesus Christ, God has a beard. Obey the beard! Obey the beard! Obey the beard! Obey the beard!
And it's Beard Talk Live. Hey, Peakless, will you look at what episode today is? Because I don't remember.
57.
Oh, like Heinz?
Hit the 57.
57 Chevy?
Nice.
I like a 57 Chevy. Wow. So, Beard Talk Live, you're familiar with the preamble?
I am.
I think we should do it right away.
Let's do it.
Fuck the FCC. Middle finger in your general fucking direction.
You forever.
Fucking bastards won't let me talk the way I want to fucking talk.
Yeah.
For 2.5 hours, one night a week.
Well,
So I got
3, but
on the subject. I got into a conversation about the whole nudity thing, and the guy's position was like, well,
nude titties? What?
Nude titties. And it's like, well, I didn't consent to that. And it's like, well, now hold on, wait a second.
Oh, you're talking about the Pork Fest nudity thing?
Yeah. Well,
okay,
and sort of the general thing of like, okay, well, nudity when you find it where you don't expect it.
I don't even know, I was somewhere.
At the nudie bar.
I don't even remember where, a public area, might have been a restaurant or something. And I look over and I see this lady just unleash a titty. Right, she just pulls her shirt down, unleashed the titty, and then
better have a baby there.
and then was handed the baby.
Okay,
like she had pulled the titty out preemptively,
Jeez.
expecting the baby, but it was long enough for like everybody to get a good gander. Right,
there was
like,
a delay on the baby delivery.
Yeah, so she's just sitting there with her titty hanging out, waiting for said baby. And
How
finally,
long
baby
is it
comes
okay to
along.
wait? Like if the baby was still outside in the car and she was just
like, I've seen this
tits
before.
out.
Most of the time, these ladies are wearing like some sort of a
1
bulky
hour.
shirt, or they make special
1
shirts.
hour.
1 hour.
After an hour, there better be a fucking baby there. Or
We
have
call the
problems.
police.
Okay.
1 hour?
1 hour. There better be a baby there or we will use force.
Hey, lady, your tits
To
been
put
out for
that nipple
45
away.
minutes. I've got 15 more minutes. You can't do anything about it.
At least switch off, right? Let us see the other one too if you're going to let one hang out for that long.
What if she just put like a mirror on it so then it looked like you saw both and they were perfectly symmetrical all of a sudden?
Hey, there you go.
That would be an unusual set of boobs if you, much like eyes.
Perfectly symmetrical. Okay.
Much like eyes, there is no such thing as symmetrical boobs.
Yeah. Nothing's
Unless they're fake, right? Then, even then, like some of these plastic surgeons don't get them right. Is that even what they're called, plastic surgeons? Or are they called like breast enhancement surgeons?
No, they're plastic
Do
surgeons.
they use the term plastic still? They don't use like beautification surgeon or some bullshit like that?
I mean, they don't not use the term plastic surgeon. I wouldn't be surprised if there's all manner of marketing that goes into it at this point, though.
Just call him this fucking guy.
This
fucking guy.
This fucking guy.
That
alters your
fucking
tits.
guy.
Call them free market surgery.
All right.
Since it's really the only surgery that you can get in the free market. And
Plastic
even then,
surgery?
not exactly a free market.
Yeah. Let's take care of some business. We spoke earlier today. For the moment, there's some logistics things going on. I need to dedicate some time to beardtalklive.com because I have the URL but have done nothing with it. There's some changes I want to make to the show. So we're going to put Beard Talk Live on pause after tonight.
Boo!
We're not ending it. We're just hitting pause. I don't know how long, right? This will be like I got to figure some other stuff out. Plus, Free Talk Live, the show that everybody who's listening to us now probably listened to before this show. Has, of course, with Ian being now a prisoner of war. I'm sorry, a prisoner of the state.
A political prisoner.
A political prisoner,
Yeah.
a hostage, if you will. He's been kidnapped by costumed men with guns. And I've had to dedicate an incredible amount of time to being here, making sure that the show itself continues to go on. There's been some technical stuff that's gone on that, I've had to help troubleshoot and that kind of a thing. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. And so this is all contributing to that. I do want to bring back Beard Talk Live at some point in the future, newer and better, and with a website and, our own, maybe Patreon or ways to donate, that kind of a thing.
I finally get back on Beard Talk Live, and then bam, he just pulls the rug out from under me.
I know, heck of a deal.
Yeah, if only you hadn't eaten that other scorpion sucker.
Is that what it is? This is the last scorpion to be eaten.
And then you
on
sit
this
here eating
iteration
another one.
because I'm not a pussy, right? Everyone's like, "Why would you do such a thing?" Because I'm not a pussy. I don't know why no one else grabbed a scorpion.
Well, so here's my
decided
thing.
to eat it.
I just don't eat suckers.
Okay.
I don't really enjoy them.
That's a whole lot of sugar for me too.
It's a lot of sugar. It's not
All right.
not really worth the calories
Like
to me.
you two were the only people offered this thing.
It
went around the studio for over a week.
That's true. That's true.
So I'm calling out every other host.
Okay.
What is your excuse? Right? Oh yeah, Peakless is the captain's the sugar, and Peakless is the I don't like suckers, and everyone's got one.
Tell you what, give me a plate full of deep fried scorpions. We're talking.
All right. What's it? Who brought these in? David Hathaway or whatever?
Yes.
Is that-
Yes.
All right.
Sheriff David Hathaway.
Sheriff David. So there you go. Next time you send up scorpions, just deep fry them or send them prepared, ready to deep fry for Peakless.
There you go.
And we will deep fry some scorpions for the Peakless Mountaineer.
I demand ketogenic scorpion eating.
So I've cited this before in just our regular
What would you make the batter out
discussions.
of?
Huh?
What would you make the batter out of?
Batter.
If you're going to deep fry, you're just going to throw it right in the deep fry. All right.
All right.
Yeah,
Usually
like
deep-
popcorn. Isn't that how it works?
Are you guys done yet?
Popcorn?
Can I go on?
Popcorn's
Yeah.
not deep fried.
Don't make
Well,
me
no,
mute
but
your
I think that
asses
if you
again.
deep fry the scorpion, maybe it'll just.
Oh, okay.
Jesus
right?
fucking Christ! It's not.
All right.
It's not talk over Captain Live. Fuck, man.
Well, it is now.
If you're making,
We're getting our vengeance.
Or is it? Ha ha! Ha ha! Ha ha! Sorry, I got carried away.
if you're deep frying, if you're making like fried chicken or whatever in whatever kind of fryer, right? You batter that thing. You don't just throw a raw chicken in there.
No. You freeze it first.
You do. Yeah. That actually helps. That's part of the process, depending on what kind of chicken you're making.
I mean, you wouldn't want an unexploded deep fried chicken.
I don't know what point you're driving at.
No, that's how, like, all of the stories about, we deep fried the turkey and it exploded. It's like,
Oh.
that's because you put it in frozen.
Oh no. So there's like at least it's Asian fusion or whatever. Chicken katsu. Have you heard of it?
Yes.
It's delicious.
Yes.
Part of the process.
What
is,
that means though is chicken with ketchup.
Okay. Whatever. You can. I've never eaten it with ketchup. Maybe as a child.
No, the sauce that comes on that
Okay.
chicken is basically ketchup.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's
It might have
a red tomato sauce.
It might be
It's
It's
based in
chicken
that.
ketchup.
Some places use actual ketchup
Yeah,
on their
that's
chicken
gross.
katsu.
Either way. But you bread it, and then you freeze it, and then you drop it into the deep fryer frozen, and that balances out like the time it takes to cook through the chicken versus how crispy
right.
the breaded outside. If you just throw it in after you batter it,
Yeah.
then it doesn't work. It's like the batter falls off and it makes a mess. So you have to freeze it in order to cook it properly.
Right. Which is why whenever I worked at an unnamed fast food place, you would take the frozen chicken fillets that were pre-breaded and just chuck them in the deep fryer, frozen. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting.
So as long as it takes to cook through the middle of the chicken, you get the crispier outside.
All right.
Which is, I was a little bit confused with Peakless. Is like, you got to freeze it there. I wasn't sure if he was making fun or.
I was.
Okay.
Well,
All right. So I have
Read a cookbook.
I've talked about this
You can't
repeatedly.
make me.
I've talked about this repeatedly on Free Talk Live as well as Beard Talk Live, and I've never cited the actual article where I first learned this stuff from. You guys already know that I have an affinity for the Irish people because their land had somewhere between 1,000 and 9,000 years of anarchy. Right now, a certain kind of non-statism is what I'm going to call this. They were organized. They had people. They had, all these things, and we'll get to that. But this is from markstovall.wordpress.com. 1,000 years of Irish anarchy. There's two articles. So one is 1,000 years. The other one is 9,000 years. So this is the first of the two articles. People often cry out that there are not any historic examples of anarchy working in the real world, as if the brutal rule of government is really working out for the people. One example that lasted much longer than the USA has lasted so far is Ireland. At Anarchopedia, you can read the following. The Celtic Irish Society of the Middle Ages and the early modern period courts and the law were largely anarchist and operated in a purely stateless manner. The society persisted in this manner for roughly 1,000 years, until it was conquered by England in the 17th century. In contrast to many similarly functioning tribal societies, pre-conquest Ireland was not in any sense primitive. It was a highly complex society that was for centuries the most advanced, most scholarly, and most civilized in all of Western Europe.
So when they were conquered, was this before or after England was printing dollars or pounds?
That I don't know, and that's a good question.
17th century.
Mm.
Access to the printing press or no access to the printing press?
Historian?
17th century? Let me think.
Was anything being printed in the 17th century? I'm sure there were books, right?
Yeah. God, what was Gutenberg, like 1500s?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So printing press.
Okay.
Yeah.
But money printing press? I don't know. Central banking?
Well, and, with their way of doing things, you could always, hand write out the paper money. I mean, the whole thing comes down to the question of, can you get more value out of it than you put into it? So, like, printing $1, I mean, it costs a bit. You got to get your
Ink and
cotton, you
paper?
got to get the ink, all that. So, I mean,
Ironically, when you buy those things, you buy it with the dollars you just printed.
right. But the value that you're getting out of it is so much higher than the value that the government's putting into it, that they're able to just expand that value and put that value wherever they want, mostly into death and destruction.
We can continue talking about the financial aspect, but I want to get through some of this article. A leading authority on ancient Irish law wrote, "There was no legislature, no bailiffs, no police, no public enforcement. There was no trace of state-administered justice. All freemen who owned land, all professionals, and all craftsmen were entitled to become members of a tuath, Tuah, for those of you with spelling challenges. Each tuath's members formed an annual assembly which decided all common policies, declared war or peace on other tuatha, and elected or deposed their, quote, kings, unquote. In contrast to primitive tribes, no one was stuck or bound to a given tuath, either because of kinship or of geographical location. You were free to move between these tuaths as you saw fit. Individual members were free to, and often did, secede from a tuath and join a competing tuath. Professor Pedden states, the tuath is thus a body of persons voluntarily united for socially beneficial purposes, and the sum total of the landed properties of its members constituted its territorial dimension. The, quote, king, unquote, had no actual political power. He could not decree or administer justice or declare war. Basically, he was a priest and a militia leader and presided over the tuath assemblies. Militia, in this case, meaning security services for the tuath. Celtic Ireland survived many invasions, but was finally vanquished by Oliver Cromwell's reconquest in 1649 or 1650. The most remarkable historical example of a society of libertarian law and courts first came to my attention while reading Murray Rothbard's For a New Liberty. This was a society where not only the courts and the law were largely libertarian, but they were basically anarcho-capitalist in the modern sense of the phrase. This Celtic society was not some primitive society or tribe, but rather it was a highly complex society. Ireland for centuries was the most advanced, most scholarly, and most civilized society in all of Western Europe, and all without a government. Rather than forcing people at gunpoint to serve on state-controlled juries, as in our modern empire, Rothbard explains how it worked in Ireland for a millennium. The professional jurists were consulted by parties to disputes for advice as to what the law was in particular cases. And these same men often acted as arbitrators between suitors. They remained at all times private persons, not public officials. Their functioning depended upon their knowledge of the law and the integrity of their judicial reputations. And he uses the term law to mean the tuath policies. So if you joined a tuath, you agreed to these sets of policies, and if you didn't like it, you didn't join, or you found a new one to join. Ancient Celtic Ireland had no state. There was no legislature, no bailiffs, no police, no public enforcement of justice, no trace of state-administered justice. Meditate on that fact for a moment. 1,000 years of no state, and Ireland was the most culturally advanced society in Western Europe. My goodness, if that's not proof enough that the market for anarchy works. So that is Article 1.
The difficulty there is that they were then conquered by a state, right?
Well, sure.
So the argument from the statist position.
But it took them 1,000 years.
I get it.
And multiple attempts.
Understood. But they were then the conclusion that you could draw is that an anarchist society, right, is unable to mount a collective defense against an overwhelming state force.
I don't know. You could draw that conclusion from one example.
Well,
It's the only example, and they were conquered.
Well, were they? I mean, was Ireland ever truly conquered by the British? I mean,
Who do they pay their taxes to?
Seems to me that it's been a territorial dispute for fucking ever,
Okay.
and still kind of is. Like they're still arguing about Northern Ireland.
That's
Whole separate thing.
That's a fact.
I mean, they've stopped blowing each other up over it, so progress. But I mean, they've been resisting that continuously.
I'm pretty sure in the article you said they were conquered by Britain.
That's what it says. Yeah.
Okay.
In 1649,
All
50, whatever that was.
Well, and so here's the real crux of the issue, though, is the question of can force and conquest truly outcompete innovation and, peace, basically? Like, can commerce and innovation do more to defend people than just the application of the existing technologies to conquest?
If we're going to go with historical examples, the short answer is no, because it hasn't. Right? Like this, everywhere you go, there's a state.
The entire Earth has been claimed by one government or another. Yes.
And if the market were sufficient to repel this threat,
Well, so my outlook on that one is if you look at
I think there's
America,
not a demand.
like the attempt was
That's possible.
made, an attempt was made at minarchism. Like
Yes.
the idea was maybe if we just do this and this and this and this and this and this and this, we can keep people not shitty enough that we won't turn into this.
Right.
Now, that turned out to be wrong.
yes.
But at the time, it was a way smaller amount of tyranny and oppression than was available elsewhere.
Back to your-
And because of that, it was able to not only overthrow England in America, but to supersede it, well, ultimately as the empire of the world.
Back to your market thing, your comment. There is a market, obviously, for anarchy, right? We are the market, right? Libertarians in general are the market for these things. I think that the market hasn't grown enough for someone to come and meet the demand, right?
Okay.
And so that's why the market forces have not, thrown off the chains of statism. That is changing, however, because, well, we now have cryptocurrency, which, in my opinion, is the first anarchic infrastructure.
I
Yeah.
still think you give it too much credit.
Well, what I think that we're going to see in the decades to come is that the black market or gray market, depending on how you look at it,
The free market.
yeah, the free market, the not taxed and regulated market,
Right.
which has until now in human history always been smaller than the taxed and regulated market, and most especially with globalism and the American protection of the seaways and all of that. I think you're in the next decades going to see that completely flip-flop, where the black market, the free market, becomes much larger and more powerful than the taxed and regulated market because of the tools that it has access to and the inherent advantage of those tools over the tools that the regulated market is using.
All right, let's take this moment to do this. Beard Talk Live, who the fuck is this?
I'm coming.
Hurry up.
You're not even breathing hard yet.
I didn't know you were excited.
Oh, I
Is
had
he an
to go
excited
check
librarian?
Please finish before you pick up the phone.
Yeah. If I hear any weird sounds or something, man.
your boy.
You guys are out of hand sometimes. I tell you
Sometimes,
You're the one
You've
in
got
hand
yourself in hand.
when you're supposed to be on the phone.
yeah. You don't call a place, wait on hold, and then put the phone down and go jerk off somewhere.
It's
What. I
rude.
didn't put the phone down. It's sitting. You heard me, didn't you? I was coming, and I told you I was coming. And just because I wasn't breathing hard,
I
How
don't-
very kind of you to give us a warning.
Yeah, let's
I
you
don't-
close your eyes.
Yeah, I don't need the play-by-play on this shit. Why the fuck did you call, Major?
why the fuck did I call? Well, first off, I wanted to thank Gigi for her very complimentary call.
Oh,
That was
that's
nice.
nice.
I don't
know
think
if she listens
to
us.
to this show, but she listens to the other one.
I mean,
Why didn't
Yeah,
you thank
I
her
don't
on the
know.
other show?
Yeah.
right?
That would have been
We had you
appropriate.
on for a
Well,
while.
Yeah, this is the show where you can cuss. We had you on there for a while. I should have thanked her then.
I know. I should have, could have, would have. There's been a lot of
Well,
that.
you put it out into the ether, and she'll probably never hear it, so there you go.
So anyway, on the whole Israeli war thing, they've called up another 100,000 reservists.
They who?
So if I'm doing my math right here, they already had a 100,000 man army.
Thank you, Kanye.
And they called up everybody that was 30, 40, and
who's calling these people up? Calling whom? Who's calling whom? Is it the U.S. calling U.S. troops?
No, the Israeli army is calling up all their reserves. They've already called up 300,000.
Well, we're not allowed to call them Jews anymore?
You're actually not.
Okay.
No, I mean, I think it's weird, but
they call themselves Jews.
No, they don't. They call themselves the Jewish people.
Oh.
You're allowed to say Jewish people.
Now,
You're not allowed to say Jews.
Can you be Israeli and not be a Jew?
Yes.
Oh.
In fact, there are a lot of people regretting that fact right now.
So then, hang on. So then,
the Americans trying to escape.
If you're an Israeli and you are in their military reserves, and they're calling you up, and you are not a Jew, then it's not all Jews that are being called up, right?
That's true.
Like, here comes a bunch of Jews. It's like here comes a bunch of Jews and
I mean,
some
to
other
be
people,
fair, it
right?
is overwhelmingly Jewish.
Okay, yeah, sure, fine, right? But there are exceptions. All right, go ahead,
There are
Major.
exceptions.
Well, you guys are just bickering semantics here.
Yes.
All I'm saying is they probably called up the people from 50 to 60 years old.
That's probably a better name for this show is Bickering Semantics.
On the relaunch, we know what we're calling it.
That would be
BS
a good
Live.
subtitle anyway.
Anyway, go ahead.
Well, like I said on my earlier call that Gigi, commented on, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better because they've pulled all the dogs out of the houses.
They've pulled the dogs.
What does that even mean?
Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about, man.
Attack dogs.
Oh.
It's military.
Yeah. Again, there's rules of war, and Israel said, we're not going to abide the rules of war. All hell is coming. And people are on their side on this.
And if you take, what happened on last Saturday, Hamas certainly didn't abide by the rules of war either. So, it's tit for tat at this point, and Lord knows how bad this thing is going to go splat when the pimple finally pops.
It's tit for tat, but Hamas is the tat, right? They've been titted for so long, and no one has said shit about the tit, that when the tat comes about, everyone's all got their panties in a bunch about terrorist activities.
Well, I'm going to go back to a call from about a week ago I gave you guys. There never was a Palestine. There was a Palestinian territory that was drawn on a map by the Romans in 900 or something.
This is why we got to abandon this whole framework.
The boundary, but that was a conglomeration of many, many tribes. The Hittites.
Sure. But it precedes any drawing on the map of anything called Israel.
Well, no, Israel had been there before, but they'd been run out time and time again by Babylon and Persia, and as we've talked about before, the whole world's been taken over 3 or 4 damn times.
Right.
Who's the original owner?
Right. But if we can go back to a map that says Palestine in modern history, and we can't go back further than that to find a map that says Israel, right? Then the extent of our knowledge is the pre-existing map that says Palestine.
Well, I think if people really want to know the history of this region, they should look up the YouTube video that is a music video, This Land Is Mine, as sung by Sinatra, which just has one group of people after another. This land is mine. God gave this land to me. Stabs the other person. Conquest. And that's what it was. It's just one set of people saying, God gave me this. And another set of people said, God gave me this, and I will prove it with this sword.
Right. So again, this is part.
And that is the natural thing that happens when you decide that conquest is an acceptable way of determining who owns shit. You just keep killing each other.
Again, but that's human history.
No.
That's like all of human history.
We just went over Ireland.
Who was repelling a conquest.
Yeah, after 1,000 years.
Well, no, who failed after 1,000 years, but as Captain noted, there was multiple attempts throughout.
Right, after 1,000 years of having this nice, peaceful situation where it was not determined by conquest.
It was determined by conquest.
Yeah, it goes back and forth.
Yes.
But here's the thing.
It was most certainly determined by conquest.
So what?
I forget what year it was, but there was like 10% of Ireland was actually in Irish hands. It was all in English hands, the lands and such.
That was probably after this 1,000 years of peace.
Hey, Captain.
Yes.
Do you remember what year it was that England conquered it?
1600 something or other.
Oh, yeah.
1649.
So the Great Debasement, because that's the thing, like the move to like fucking up your currency, it never happens all at once, except in America's case. What happens is that you slowly fuck up the money, but also still force people to trade as if you hadn't fucked up the money. And that happened in 1544 to 1551 in England, was the Great Debasement.
So approximate, what was it, 15?
1544 to 51.
So 100 years or so before.
Yeah.
They conquered.
So, yeah,
Ireland.
100 years or so before, they had done the Great Debasement, which means they were doing this Cantillon effect where they were putting very little into it and getting a whole lot out of it.
The Great Debasement, not to be confused with where Skeeter lives.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, it's faith
The Great Basement.
that lets people do this. And it's faith that lets the empires print money that people actually act like it's worth something. People have faith in it. So they act like it's worth something, and that lets them make all of these bombs and all of these armies, and it puts us on the edge of nuclear war where we are right now.
And truly, like, more so, or at least as much so, as the 1980s were, like, the threat of nuclear war, right? The most threat that we've had since then, right?
Yeah.
Since, the movie Red Dawn, right? 1984, whatever year that was.
The
right?
Russian invasion?
Yeah. And then when they remade Red Dawn, they had to make it not the Russians because the Russians weren't a threat anymore.
Well, now they're going to do it again with the Russians.
Well, see, in the remake that we're living through right now, instead of having the Russians that are communists, we have the Russians that are not communists teaming up with the communists that are not Russians, being the Chinese. So Russians and communists come together to, I don't know, end the fucking world, apparently.
Yeah,
to overthrow capitalism.
Yeah. Capitalism. That's what it is.
All right. Major, hang on. Let's go over here. Beard Talk Live. Who the fuck is this?
Hey, this is Matthew. I'm calling again. Just to let you know, it's confusing because the audio I get is Vincent's show and not what you guys are doing on Beer Talk Live.
Oh, first-time caller.
It's very confusing.
when you're on hold, yeah. It's one of the.
Oh, am I live?
You
it's
are
a
live
known
now.
bug.
Yeah.
You're
So
live now.
yeah, it's a feature, not a bug. No,
it's a bug.
It's definitely a bug. Yep. We hear it from everybody who calls Beard Talk Live from the first time says that. So welcome.
Yeah, no, so embarrassingly enough, it took me 5 minutes to realize what was happening.
And you could have kept it to yourself and saved the
admission. I was
admission.
trying to do the thing where
we don't need to talk about it anymore. What were you really calling for?
Yeah, so I was calling to talk more about the conflict in Gaza because I'm a little miffed because I find it hard to care because it's kind of more.
That's where I'm at.
God bless you, sir.
I just don't fucking care.
God bless you.
It's way too many people are talking about it who have never fucking talked about it before.
That's the problem.
If only everyone could just be more like you in this way.
And the people who are talking about it have no idea how it starts.
Well, and so the awkward part is that so I work in the military, and so I get these dumb messages where they're like, be vigilant. And I was like, well, what do you want me to do? And they're like, just be more vigilant. And I was like, no, like, what concrete action do you want me to take? And they're like, be vigilant.
Just be ready to die.
Be ready to die. I mean, if they were telling the truth, they'd sign it, be ready to die.
Be vigilant, by which I mean we might send you to your death anytime now.
Look,
well, so the thing that really gets me is that like all the news reports talk about how Friday was the day of anger, and I was like, look, man, I'm not an Arabic scholar, but that's not what they said. It was a day of jihad, and jihad. While you can translate jihad as anger, That's not what it means. And if you said Day of Jihad, people would have a different reaction than a day of anger. And so there's this element of people that are whitewashing, or I guess whitewashing probably isn't the right word.
Did banks close for this Day of Jihad? Did churches close?
No, they got bombed.
No, but I mean elsewhere. Elsewhere.
Oh, okay.
No, it was called for by Hamas and affiliated organizations. They called for a day of jihad, and then when translating that Arabic, so they didn't call for a day of jihad in English. They did it in Arabic, and so they called for a day of jihad, and then when translating it, people said jihad meant anger, which is technically a correct translation.
Yeah, that's one way to call
it.
Well, I think
what's a different headline.
Well, also,
I think the reason that they translated it instead of just telling you it's the Day of Jihad is that we're all kind of jaded to that term. It doesn't scare us anymore. It doesn't get us mobilized for World War.
Also, because I'm, a U.S. citizen, I guess, right? Because I have to be.
They claim you.
And because I know nothing.
They would identify me as such.
I am now pronouncing Hamas. Hamas. Right?
Nice.
Hamas. What did Hamas do today?
I would politely disagree about saying people are jaded, because I don't think it's that they're jaded. I know that if you had a news story with a headline that said Hamas is calling for a day of jihad, there's a very different reaction in the American populace is that if Hamas calls for a day of anger. And so they made a conscious decision to translate jihad, which you can translate jihad as anger, and make it a technically correct statement. Because I mean, if you think about, like, if you put a headline,
so do you think the press is sorry? Do you think the press is downplaying it?
Absolutely. I think that the press is 100% on the side. So I think the mainstream press is very much on the side of fomenting the current conflict. And so they know
they want to gin up some anger. Got to gin up that anger in order to go to war.
Right.
And so the problem is that in this conflict in the Middle East, there are no good guys. And so the press is used to having a good guy that they can look to, and like, this is the hero, this is the villain.
Well, in the mainstream press, the hero is the Israelis.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
so
without a
the
doubt.
problem is that
and if they need a singular villain, they'll manufacture one.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, when it comes to the Middle East, for the past, I think it's 3,000 years, it's just been a bunch of really shitty people doing shitty things to a bunch of other shitty people.
Well, let's not make a mistake. Like, it's a bunch of shitty statist people. Like the citizens over there, largely are citizens, whatever you want to call them. The individuals over there, largely, are just trying to go to work, have a career, raise their families, etc., and so on. It's the fucking statists that have been really shitty to each other. Whatever gang is in control over the course of time, you're right, has been really shitty, but it's not the individuals, it's not the people of these geographic areas, it is the statists of these geographic areas.
Well, so yeah, I agree in concept, but I think that one of my personal heroes, one of the Saracen warlords, Saladin, who, if you've ever seen the movie Kingdom of Heaven, his big thing was that he didn't give a shit about Jerusalem as a holy place. He just knew it was a place that he needed to conquer. So if you've ever seen the movie Kingdom of Heaven, they kind of whitewash it, but he is a very practical person, and the thing is that Jerusalem, in and of itself, there's no tactical significance, there's no moral significance other than holy places. It's just a place that you have to conquer, and all the people that are fighting over it aren't actually fighting over Jerusalem, they're fighting over control of the nexus around it, and it just becomes this stand-in.
You actually find this throughout history, that the rulers have a completely different set of beliefs than the people that they're ruling. So yeah, sure, Saladin didn't give a shit about Jerusalem, but he knew that all the people that he wanted to murder people, they really did give a shit about Jerusalem. So he knew that he couldn't get away with, sure, it might have been tactically a good idea to go around Jerusalem because it's very, very fortified, but he knew he couldn't keep them motivated to keep fighting if he didn't at least try and take the place.
You mean politicians lied to people to get them on their side?
Yeah, it's just that.
Oh, man. Who knew?
Yeah, and that's always true. The people who are ruling over us have a completely different set of values and beliefs than A, us, and B, the ones they profess.
And Joe Biden will pretend to be anybody as long as the crowd's for that person.
Well, all these fucking politicians, man, everybody who's fucking running right now has flip-flopped or lied or, you know, whatever. They've committed some faux pas where, like, they are definitely inconsistent with their campaign, with what they supposedly want to do or are going to do or believe in.
Yeah, well, it gets super exhausting when people ask me, like, which side are you on? I was like, I'm on no one's side. I don't give a shit. Like,
I'm on the side of the people.
Right.
Like, not the politicians, not the state, not the military. No, I'm on the side of the people who just want to go about their lives without getting blown up. That's whose side I'm on.
I'd take it to a radical extent. I mean, they had, I think it was Nikki Haley who said, turn it all to glass. And they're like, how could you say that? And I was like, honestly, that'd probably be better. Like, I don't care about anything on any side. This place has been a source of conflict for thousands of years.
They'll fight over the glass.
It's not even the geographic area. Like, you could bomb that thing into oblivion, and the geographic area will not have any effect, right, on this holy war, because that's what it is. This is as long as these religions are at war with each other, the plot of land matters not.
Is there some culpability for the people still there? Like,
I mean, I don't think there is.
If you're Palestinian, right? You've been in whatever the Palestinian region
all your life,
constantly bombarded by bombs from Israel, right? Constant retaliation from Hamas.
You're 23 years old. You grew up there, lived your entire life there.
Sure.
Okay.
But this is your experience for 23 years, right? And you go like, well, can I get out of here? Right, and then I'm not in the geographic region of which there is a conflict. Like, staying in a conflict zone, you kind of got to, like, take some responsibility when your sister's arm gets blown off.
So if I can offer an item, is that's the dirty little secret about the conflict, is that Palestinians are universally reviled by other Arab nations, and so the reason why there is a refugee crisis is that this stems from the war in 1947, when the other Arab nations tried to conquer what was the UN grant to Israel. And so Israel has pushed out its boundaries over the course of many decades, but the final cut that we mostly recognize is from 1967, where the West Bank and Gaza Strip are contained. And so the refugee camps are because no other Arab country will accept Palestinian refugees. So the refugees are called refugees because they can't get work in Jordan, Syria, Egypt. All the countries around them won't take them, and they keep them as perpetual victims because it makes it convenient.
If they're reviled by all the other Arab nations around them, where are they getting the armament, munitions, funding to put on this offensive?
They're getting it from Iran and Syria because they are a convenient foil against Israel, because the only people that they hate more than the Palestinians are the Israelis. But
Iran and Syria won't let in Palestinian refugees.
There's a whole sect of Arab literature, and there were refugee crises where people were trying to smuggle themselves across Iraq in the 60s and 70s because Kuwait was the only country that would hire Palestinians. So Palestinians would stuff themselves into gas tankers, water tankers, trucks, and smuggle themselves across Jordan, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia to get to Kuwait.
I have a question for
Kuwaitis were the only ones that would hire them.
I have a question for any of you really. I read something recently that supposedly exposed the U.S. filtering something like $6 billion to Iran. Did you guys hear of this?
It wasn't a filtering thing. It was there was $6 billion of it was owned by Iranian corporations. They were held in U.S.-controlled banks through whatever the FinCEN network is, and so they froze the assets by whatever the government says, like, hey, I can tell you can't transfer money. And so as part of there's a prisoner exchange a couple months ago where like we did a 6-for-6 swap, and we being Free Talk Live, we being the
United
U.S.
States,
federal
right?
government. And so they did that, and then the U.S. just apparently thinks that it can renege on the deal just because they feel like it, which is in keeping with the U.S. federal government.
Yeah, exactly.
But yes, I think that's what you're talking about.
So no one will take in these Palestinian refugees, 23 years old, lived there their whole life, can't escape, right? Would like to escape, but can't. And then they're surprised when they like turn into soldiers.
You can see it in our current immigration policy. I mean, like we've got Mexico, which is a state that is literally contiguous with the United States, and you have people that are like, I don't want these Mexicans here, and so like the view of like Texans versus Mexicans or U.S. versus Mexico is analogous to Jordan versus Palestine, Egypt versus Palestine,
Sure, I get
Saudi Arabia versus Palestine. They view them the same way. They don't want the other to come into their country.
With the exception of viewing it out of a religious context, right?
But if the United States were constantly bombing Mexico, right, and then not accepting the refugees, would we be surprised if they turned a whole bunch of Mexicans into soldiers,
right,
to fight against this opposition?
I think we've seen that, and I think that's why the Saudis and the Jordanians and the Egyptians don't want to let them into their country, because they have a perpetually oppressed class that will fight their enemy being Israel. But it's basically like it. I think the better analogy would be if you split Baja with continental Mexico, and basically the United States was consistently bombing Baja. And the continental Mexico wasn't accepting refugees from Baja because they were a perpetual victim for the violence perpetuated by the United States.
Okay, same example. Would you be surprised if Baja Mexicans turned into soldiers to defend themselves? They want to get out. They can't get out. They're constantly getting bombed. You got to fight back. You pin them against the wall. You back them into a corner. Don't be surprised when they lash out.
Yeah, it's not so. The rest of the Arab League uses the Palestinians as a foil against Israel in a sort of proxy war.
So they're being victimized twice, and yet everyone on the news calls them terrorists.
Yeah, no, they're all shitty people. Everyone involved in the conflict, all of them are shitty people. And
so it seems to me that all of this is a marionette show, man. Like, yeah, sure, they're shitty people, but I mean, part of it is definitely they're people that got put into a shitty situation. And when you put a person in a shitty situation, don't be surprised if they turn shitty.
That's what I'm saying. So they're being victimized twice, and we're calling them shitty people.
And I'm not talking about just the Palestinians. I'm talking about the Palestinians and the Israelis at the same time. They both got put in a shitty situation, and regardless of whether they were shitty people beforehand or not, they sure are now. But here's the thing: it's all a manipulation. Like, this is all just to get a bunch of Christians ready to blow a bunch of people up and to lose a bunch of their freedoms and to pay a whole mess of money. That's why all of this.
So to your whole mess of money conversation, I don't know why Israel has the 4th highest per capita GDP in the world.
Because they're like a standard deviation higher in IQ.
Well, I didn't say that. I'm just saying that numbers-wise, per capita, they have the 4th highest GDP, and yet they get tens of billions of dollars in aid. And we're talking about, like, somehow the speakership of the U.S. House of Representatives is tied to aid to Israel. Why the fuck do they need aid?
Yeah,
they've got plenty of money.
Because they can take it, and they'll give it. And if you don't give it, you're anti-Semitic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's total fucking bullshit, man.
Anti-Semite.
Well, and here's the thing: like, if America stopped doing this, it would end the war. I mean,
maybe.
And no, fucking not maybe. Here's the thing: war is not profitable. War only moves resources from one group to another group, spilling half the resources in the process. That's how war works. Peace, on the other hand, generates resources. That's how peace works.
I would counter that with the history of wars against Israel, even before there was U.S. support, the Israelis will do fine on their own. They don't need our help.
Right.
That's what I'm suggesting.
And if
America stops funding it, they'll still fight.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, they'll fight for a while, and eventually it just won't be worth it.
Yeah, they'll figure it out
No,
on
I
their
mean,
own.
they've literally won every time it's happened.
Well, and that's the thing. If they were spending their own fucking money on this war, they'd eventually go, I'd rather not spend so much money. But they can keep spending money because America's happy to give them more money as long as they keep using it to buy American bombs.
Yeah, I'm against against foreign aid of almost every kind, right? Unless it is like genuinely voluntary, right? If some crisis happens somewhere in the world and some charitable person, charity organization or something is like, hey guys, we got a plan. We're going to help these people out of this crisis. If you want to donate, send money here. I'm fine with that. But when it comes to government sporting money to anywhere else, right, I think that it's a bad fucking idea.
I have a hobby. I play video games.
Yes.
I spend a lot of money on video games. Mm-hmm. In order to support my video game habit / hobby, I go to work and I do productive things in other sectors, right? If Israel is that smart, has that high GDP, right? They're not wasting it all on war, right? They're doing other productive economic things, and they could use the value that they produce in the productive economy to fund their war against Palestine.
Right.
It doesn't. They're not just going to run out. They'll just continue to be productive in other sectors to fund their war hobby. And no amount of Bitcoin is going to fix that.
Right.
Well, so here's the thing. If your options are, A, keep the war going and keep getting a bunch of U.S. dollars to fund the war.
Yep.
Or B, stop the war and stop getting American dollars. Guess which one you're going to pick.
Or C, not get U.S. dollars, continue to fund the war through other means, productive economies, so that because the religious persecution of the Palestinians and the takeover of Jerusalem as their holy land supersedes any other political motive.
Yeah, I think the libertarian perspective, at least for me, is to turn off the fucking gravy train and let them sort it out.
But they will sort it out by continuously going to war until they conquer Palestine and take over Jerusalem permanently.
I don't think that's how it works. So if you look at war throughout history, eventually they end when they run out of money. When they run out of the resources to be at war with each other, they finally get around to peace talks. That's basically what has always happened with war ever.
At any given time, Israel can wipe Palestine off the map. They're that much better at this. They just haven't done it yet.
So I think the Peakless's point is that that we are funding both sides of the conflict. So there are because of the fungibility of money is that through humanitarian funds we are funding both sides. And
that's
so
what I was trying to get at with the $6 billion that somehow made it to Iran. I was trying to get at the point that the United States is funding both.
Yes, that's precisely my point, is that the United States federal government is funding both sides of this war. Now, they're making a big show of funding one side of the war, and they're kind of secretly funding the other side of the war, but you think they don't fucking know where that money's going? I mean, come on, look at how they spy on us, and they're actually not supposed to do that, whereas spying on these people, they're actually supposed to do. So believe me, they know exactly where that money is going, and they're really happy to do it, because otherwise there wouldn't be a war. How's Lockheed Martin supposed to sell shit?
I didn't realize. I forgot my training from Gene. I should have said Goonerment was funding it. But so the Goonerment is funding both sides through various funding strategies, whether it's foreign military sales to Israel, whether it's through humanitarian aid to Hamas, whether Hezbollah is kind of like the wild card in the conflict. I think they've only fired about 400 rockets at this point.
Oh, just 400?
Yeah, only 400. Apparently, that makes it so it's not that big a deal.
Well, and
400 rockets sounds like a big number to me.
Well, and let's run your scenario here. Like, okay, let's say you're right, and Israel has the ability to just wipe them off the map. Okay, let's say they do it.
Yep.
So Israel wipes Palestine off the map.
Peace in the Middle East.
Yeah, that's what's going to fucking happen. Because it's not like the rest of the Muslims on Earth are going to have a chip on their shoulder after that. They're all going to fucking turn their guns on Israel at the same time.
He just said they don't even like the Palestinians.
Right. Now they don't have to deal with them, but they have the honor matter to deal with. They were still Muslims, and we're Muslims, and now we gotta fucking kill you.
Then they should have.
And now, once we take you over, we don't have to deal with those shitty Palestinians anymore. Because they're gone. So every fucking nation surrounding Israel is going to turn on them simultaneously. And then every other nation on earth is going to have to destroy all of the nations that did that. And fuck, man, are we going to kill everyone on earth?
No, you just let Israel have the Palestinian land and have their holy land, Jerusalem, and done.
Here's my question.
Peace in the Middle East.
Why the fuck do we care about any of this? Haven't these assholes been killing each other as long as they have been in these camps?
Yes.
So why do we give a shit about this one?
Because they're taking your tax dollars to fund it.
They were taking my tax dollars to fund it 10 days ago or 20 days ago or however long ago this was. They were taking it a year ago. Why are we...
Because now we have pictures of dead babies. At least the president does.
So I guess the counter
so actually,
all the guns are already pointed against Israel. But the counter argument to the counter argument is that this place has been fought over for thousands of years, and the problem is that the people that are making the decisions and that are funding the decisions, whether that's funding Hamas, funding Israel, funding Hezbollah, are all coming from people that don't actually care about what's happening and aren't actually paying the tolls for what's happening. And so you've got yourself in a situation where you've got actors with outsized abilities deciding what's happening. It's like a fourth crusade. I think this would be the fourth, maybe fifth crusade.
Yeah.
In the Holy Land. And the thing that is concerning is that, like, we've seen this play out time and again, and the only people that suffer are the people that actually have to fucking live there.
So to answer your question a little bit, Peakless, I see, the media suddenly caring about all this shit, the blow up on the social media of this shit, the obvious, warlike things that are going on over there. My concern, of course, is that because COVID failed to sort of enslave everybody into, the social credit system, and, you got a permanent ID kind of a thing and all that kind of thing, that they had to change their tactic, right? And so their tactic now is to, let's start a war. Let's start a huge, I don't know, what's the...
No, this war's been ongoing. There's no start war.
Okay, let's fund both sides of this war. Okay. Let's make this the topic du jour so that they can come back with, in order to protect everybody from the coming war, we're going to need you all to sign up for the digital ID social credit program or something along those lines. That's my guess. My guess is that they are going... Never let a good crisis go to waste. Right? They failed with the COVID to sort of globally enslave everybody into their CBDC, social credit score, systems or whatever. So now they need another way to do it. War is a great way to do it because you'll get a bunch of people, rabble rousers, if you will, a bunch of people all, oh my gosh, or angered or whatever. Yes, if it means killing those motherfuckers, I'll do it. I'll sign up for it.
Because Russia-Ukraine wasn't enough?
Clearly.
Really?
Yeah. Really.
The Russia-Ukraine thing was not a religious war.
Okay.
Well, and so here's the thing. They really have to get something like 90%.
Are there stars of David in people's profile pictures on Facebook? Because there's a whole bunch of black and yellow a couple of years ago.
No one changed their flags to the Israeli flag.
Well, and that's the thing. They need 90%+ of the people to be on board with this thing. And with Ukraine, they had 75% tops.
Oh, wow.
They had all the,
just from the U.S.
just below the cusp.
Let's call it all the Democrats and half of the Republicans.
Okay. Just from the U.S. only.
With COVID, they had 80%.
And Matthew, I don't know how old you are, but I'm 51, so I saw Gulf War. Gulf War was cheered on, if you will, because it was a holy war. Right? That's how Gulf War went. right? And that's what, and the people, like Americans, were cheering. They're like, yeah, let's go bomb some motherfuckers, right? That was the sentiment overall, because they got them all, ginned up on this holy war, this religious war. Because whether you like it or not, the majority of the United States of America claims to be Christian. That is a religious designation, and if there's a holy war to be had, the Christians are going to be on that side. The majority of the U.S. is going to be on that side, and they're going to be like, yeah, let's go blow some motherfuckers up.
Yeah, so I'm only 41, so I'm not down with blowing up motherfuckers. But I think that,
I'm not either. I'm just saying that was like the popular sentiment amongst people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the Ukrainian conflict, there's actually a sort of stealth conflict between the Orthodox Church and other. So it's not necessarily a Lutheran or an Episcopalian versus the Orthodox Church. It's a break between the Russian Orthodox Church and the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. So before the Ukraine conflict, the Russian Orthodox Church was the universally recognized religion in the Ukraine. And then as Western entities started to foment division, there was kind of a breakaway movement from the Ukraine. That was when the entire idea of a Ukrainian church came about, and then they started breaking away. And so basically, the Western powers created a conflict where there was none to begin with.
All right. Hey, Matt, thank you for the call, man. We appreciate you. 603-283-6160 if you want to join us here on Beard Talk Live. Let's move along. Let's go to fucking Squidward. Hey, turn your fucking shit down, Squidward. Jesus Christ.
Hello, my free-riding murderers. It's your boy, the Evo Cap, the Libertarian Slayer, Little Skeet.
It's definitely some skeet.
Hey, libertarians are the most dangerous people in the world, you know that?
I wish.
War is the death of the state.
I wish.
Wow.
I wish.
The death of the state, not the health of the state.
Wow.
Skeeter loves me some war. Bring it on. Bring on all the war. Bring on the war on alcohol.
I told you he
Bring
was
on
a
the war on
violent
drugs.
supporter.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's make marijuana illegal again.
He seems so much against the non-aggression principle, like because it doesn't actually do what it says it does. Seems odd that he would also be in favor of it.
I mean, I already brought up several examples of where it fails, and
your examples are terrible.
I've never seen much
develop
consistency out of this
infinite
guy.
amount
Really,
of scenarios where it fails.
Well, he's consistently
From children
wrong.
to pollution to utilitarian scenarios. The non-aggression principle is nonsensical, right? So I can present. I can present a scenario where.
Already, you gotta stop. You tried to use my line and say right as if we were going to accept your premise.
Yeah,
but your premise has been rejected.
It's
so you
a
gotta
false
pause.
premise.
Let me pit the non-aggression principle against profit, right? So here's the non-aggression principle. You can't, like I've given this scenario to these two dummies here before. Would you slap your co-host? Would you slap your co-host for like $10 million, right?
Oh, Christ, this again. Come up with something new, dude. Jesus Christ.
That's where the cost of aggression is so small compared to the benefit. You see, the profit outweighs this aggression. This is like this. This applies to like
So if I say no, hold on 1 second.
This applies to
let's
like
take your
pollution.
example. Let's take your example.
Like even
Skeeter.
Hold on.
Somebody
Mute him, please.
Fuck, man.
Thank you.
So let's take his example. Would I slap?
Wait, hang on. I gotta mute him over here so that he can hear what the fuck we're saying.
Okay, let's take his example. Would I slap one of you two for $10 million?
I think you would.
And what? Hold on.
I hope so.
If I do, I'm proving Skeeter right in that profit is greater than non-aggression. Which means if I say no, his entire premise falls apart.
Right.
So all you need is like someone to say no. I would not slap anyone for any price, and the whole premise falls apart.
Skater.
Say no to the slapping, you mean?
Yeah. Would I slap Captain Kickass for $10 million?
What would evolution do to you? Who would evolution select? The person who slaps the other guy, or the person who doesn't slap the other guy and is much poorer like Captain? Who would evolution select in that case? Over a bunch of.
I don't think evolution pays any attention to money value.
You don't think evolution selects between behaviors?
I don't think evolution cares what the cost of the behavior is financially.
Oh, I think it does.
So it doesn't,
absolutely.
It doesn't punish
Go
you.
on.
It doesn't reward the person who's.
So if I have more money, I am more evolutionarily fit because I'm able to provide for my offspring more effectively.
Okay.
Whereas, so yeah, evolution definitely very much cares your ability to access resources, and in our case, that's money, which, yeah, will probably continue to be the human condition for a good long time.
I mean, but I can access resources without money.
Not as effectively.
The question here is, does evolution select rich people over poor people?
Yes.
Or, I guess, profit over
really?
non-profit.
Have you seen Idiocracy?
Yeah. I don't know. Let's,
punish.
Oh, she's still talking.
It'll punish the guy who's paying $10 million for you to slap the guy.
Why are you
there's
yelling?
No inherent profit in that.
Yeah, we're trying to hash this out.
Jesus Christ.
Take a deep breath, bro.
Take a breath. Count to 10.
Count to 3. We only give him 3 seconds.
I don't like Richie Rich.
Your head's
before,
about to explode, man.
I get cut off, so I feel a sense of urgency trying to get my info out. You guys have all show to keep talking about. Even when you hang up on me, you can try to convince yourself you won the debate, like with subjective value, with everything.
Go find your sock.
Bye, Skeeter. I've had enough of that shit. That's right. I've hung up on his ass.
So, to steelman the opposition, if I may.
I know what straw man is. What's steel man?
It's the opposite of straw man. It's instead of giving you the worst possible argument, I'm going to give you the best possible version of that argument that I can give you.
Okay.
So to steelman the argument, at least as I've encountered it, so a good person is unwilling to do certain things.
Like slap a co-host for $10 million.
Like slap a co-host for $10 million. Now, an evil person is willing to do everything that a good person is willing to do, and those other things.
Mm-hmm. And evolution will select the evil person.
Right.
Okay.
Because they're capable of doing more.
Okay, but what if, in the same scenario, someone's going to give Richie Rich Squidward, Skeeter, whatever, it's going to give Richie Rich $10 million for slapping me.
And I say, no, I will not slap the captain.
No. You say, sure,
okay.
Sure, I'll do it.
All
and then on the side, Richie Rich comes to me, he's like, hey, look, man, there's a lot of money on the table. Skeeter wants me to slap you for like $10 million.
To be fair, that he did put the hypothetical in the you're not allowed to tell him that.
Well, and not only that, if Captain agrees to it, it's not an act of aggression. It's not a violation.
Right, and so that's the question. So now,
right, but
I think that I can,
hang on,
come
because
along
you've
later
just
and
laid out my exact scenario,
me.
Right?
Yeah.
If we make this deal, right, unbeknownst to whomever's paying, right,
it's still not an act of aggression.
But does
if he gets your agreement, then it's not aggression.
Hold the fuck on. We make this deal, the slap goes through, right? And then everybody finds out later that we made a deal or whatever, and, some fucking drama unfolds or whatever it is.
We're on the hook for fraud.
Who does evolution select? The people who made the deal or the people who proposed the deal?
Well, in theory, the people who are proposing this deal have $10 million to just throw around for fuck's sake. So they're already evolutionarily selected.
I don't know about that.
Okay, so in your scenario where Skeety has $10 million to give to Richie to slap you.
Yeah.
I don't think that's all the money he has.
No,
I mean,
of course not.
He may not be the most wise and rational person in the world, but he's not going to give away all of his money just to get you slapped. He's probably got maybe $1 billion.
So by
and this is
logic,
pocket change, so he's going to amuse himself by seeing if it works.
So by this logic, evolution is going to choose Donald Trump. Evolution is going to choose Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Bill Gates.
Really?
Yes.
I don't think so.
Without a doubt.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm with Captain on this one.
I don't think so. I don't think the amount of money you have has any influence on what evolution may or may not choose.
That's retarded.
Well, take this example then, the English Blue Bloods.
Yeah.
Richest people on the planet, inbred the fuck out of themselves, retarded as hell a few generations later.
Yeah, okay. All things being equal, being rich will be evolutionarily selected for. Now, that is not all things being equal. Like, that is, we acquired our money through selective incest. It's like, okay, well, you've put yourself a handicap that is actually stronger than the evolutionary selection for the money.
So what qualities are you suggesting evolution selects for because of wealth?
Oh, well, ability to provide for your offspring, ability to protect your family, access to mates, social status is like the sexiest thing in the entire world.
Okay.
Yeah. So all of these things are really helpful for creating and continuing offspring.
We know that rich, ugly guys can get laid, right?
Right.
I mean, that doesn't need to be said. That's a cliche. That's likely true. However, I know some insanely smart people who are poor, and some of them intentionally, right? Who they could be rich, but they're not. They're strong. They're virile. They're smart. They provide for their families. They can protect their families, but they're not fucking rich. Because in order for you to be rich, at least not all the time, but a lot of the time, you have to be an evil motherfucker.
There's a tropical tribe somewhere of free divers, and evolutionarily they have been selected for lung capacity and ability to hold their breath. We would not consider them wealthy.
I have no idea what the fuck you're saying, so I'll respond to what he was saying first.
Do you want me to clarify?
Actually, I want to respond to him first, unless you were building off of his point.
No. I'm agreeing with the captain, and I'm
right, let's come back to the pearl divers.
Providing another example of evolution selecting for poor people.
Okay, so again, all things being equal, being wealthy is definitely evolutionarily selected for. Now, if you're in a circumstance where in order to be wealthy, you also have to be evil, that I think is a handicap that outweighs being wealthy. But the wealth is still evolutionarily selected for.
Doesn't that knock down the profit motive?
Against.
Doesn't that knock down profit as a motive or as a selection?
Well, so that's not the only way to be wealthy, though.
Right. Okay. All right.
Now, if it were, like, you're in a very, super oppressive empire, and they, just make sure that everyone who's wealthy and survives is in on the scam, well, yeah, then you have to take the handicap of being evil, and the evil handicap is bigger than the wealthy advantage.
How do we know what evolution defines as wealthy? We're talking about evolution as if it's a thing, a living, breathing
Evolution doesn't so much
entity.
care about wealth. It cares about the effects
but we're
that
talking
wealth
about
tends to
evolution selecting for wealth.
Okay.
So
as a secondary
what
effect.
Criteria does evolution use to determine human wealth?
Well, and
protection of your offspring, provision for your offspring, being really big important things, and the ability to attract mates.
Well, Skeeter didn't say it was a secondary effect. He said evolution selects for wealth. That was right. The de facto premise.
Okay, sure. I mean, it's
profit.
It does.
Whatever.
It's not direct. It is indirect. Okay. But he's not wrong there. The effects of wealth. To be more precise than he was, evolution selects for the effects of wealth.
Okay.
The effects of wealth being access to mates and protection and provision for your offspring.
What else does evolution select for?
Other than attracting mates and providing for them and protecting them? Fucking nothing, really.
Well, okay, so again, the tribe that I brought up was, I don't remember exactly where it is.
Yeah.
Tropic, whatever, that area. They're free divers. They live basically in the water, and that's their habitat.
Yep.
We would traditionally not say they are wealthy based on our Western-centric version of wealth.
Yep.
Right? But generationally, they can hold their breath longer, dive further down,
right?
Because evolution has selected lung capacity specifically for this tribe.
Right.
Giving them an advantage in that region over anybody else.
Right, because for hundreds of generations they've been doing this diving, and as time has gone on, all of their offspring have given or have the propensity for holding their breath longer, et cetera, and so on.
But by our definition, poor motherfuckers.
Right.
Well, yeah, and I'd say that wealth is actually the mechanism by which evolution has selected the ability to do this.
Go on.
So the people who tried to pearl dive but didn't have the lung capacity to do it didn't get wealthy. And because they didn't get wealthy, they didn't have access to mates, they didn't have the ability to protect and provide for their offspring.
But the ones that didn't get wealthy either.
Yes, they did. They got pearls. The pearls gave them status and gave them the ability to trade for protection and provision.
I don't think they traded for anything. They're like, again, small uncontacted tribe, right? They're not protected against anybody. They're just there, peaceful, probably even, right?
No, I don't think so at all.
Okay.
Like in general, like a small uncontacted tribe tends to be a really, really dangerous place.
No, these are just free divers. That's all. They dive, they get their fish, they get pearls, whatever.
Well, and that's the thing.
They don't trade.
So in the absence of trade, they weren't diving for pearls.
Okay.
So the additional ability to dive is actually just an additional ability to get food. So sometimes the fish are scarce, and being able to get the clams is going to be the difference between whether you starve or not.
Okay.
And being able to not starve gets you the bitches.
Okay. And you're calling that wealth?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Let's do this. Let's go to an unscreened caller. Who the fuck is this?
Hey guys, it's Frank. Let me be Frank.
Frank Furter? Frank Stein?
I'm always frank and earnest with women. In Chicago, I'm frank, and in New York, I'm earnest.
Frank, I love your hot sauce.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Frank's hot sauce.
Do you mind saying whereabouts you're calling from?
Red hot.
Roundabout, Texas.
Roundabout, Texas. All right. Just don't be in New Mexico, man. I hate that place.
No. All right, so going off what the last topic was, it's thoroughly engaging. I love it. I love the thought experiments of testing the non-aggression principle, although it was a bit straw man-ish. I'm putting it lightly. I think that there's multiple factors that were forgotten in evolutionary selection process for societies. That's the first thing I'll say is organizational aspects of society is not necessarily directly related to wealth. So you lost me on that, or not you guys, but the argument loses me on that.
Hold on, say that again.
Cooperation is a big factor in the capability. The individual is not the thing that perpetuates in evolutionary systems. It's
so here's
hang on, let me finish this thought.
And so the ability of groups to organize and cooperate together doesn't necessarily mean to aggregate wealth to an individual in the effect of arbitrarily spending entertainment money on dumb shit like slapping somebody in the face. Who gives a shit about that?
Right.
And I would also argue that anyone who's willing to throw their wealth around for menial entertainment value of some dude slapping somebody in the face is going to be separated from their wealth, much like a fool, very quickly. So
what if I just spend that money on video games?
Well, I'm sorry to say, they're proportional to the ability for you to make wealth. I mean, there might be an argument there, but I would say that someone who dedicates more time in resources for entertainment versus acquisition of resources are lower in the evolutionary tree relative to somebody else, but that's not really the question. The question is, does the non-aggression principle apply to the effectiveness of any sort of organizational aspect of society to perpetuate themselves? I would say that societies that embrace the non-aggression principle or cooperation within the group, not necessarily external, but within, would perpetuate themselves at a higher propagation rate than another. So
yes. Yeah, and that's what he's missing in this equation. Like he's just it's sort of a monomania, a singular fixation on wealth, and he's not seeing that single-minded pursuit of wealth makes you incapable of working effectively with others. And that's basically the same problem with my best version of the steel manning argument is, well, yeah, sure, you're capable of these other things, but at what cost? Like, weirdly enough, it was an original series Star Trek episode that went into, like, yeah, it's a lot easier for a good man to pretend he's evil than an evil man to pretend he's good. And you just can't interface with peaceful society when you're not a peaceful person. At least not for an extended period of time, and not reliably. But being able to, but to your point, being able to interface with each other and to work together makes all of us more capable of protecting and providing and wealthy.
I would also suggest that in the capitalist system, the selfish pursuit of wealth works because you have to serve the needs of others to get it. So yes, even within cooperative society and peaceful society, there are still those pursuing absolute wealth. It's just a matter of how they obtain it.
Yeah, but I don't think that it's inherently selfish, but that's a separate argument. I also want to say that to reiterate, it's very myopic and one-dimensional thinking. There are many ways that people acquire positions in society and become so wealth, power, influence, these all things factor into it. So it's forgetting all of those things. And I think somebody was talking about pearl diving or whatever. It was hard for me to listen while I was on hold, but
it's nearly impossible.
So I think we put that one to bed. I wish that guy would be more attuned to argumentation ethics.
He's on the spectrum. Don't expect too much out of him.
Well,
yeah. The reason I wanted to call in earlier was we were talking while you guys were talking with the caller before the last one.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to push back a little bit. I like what you guys are saying. I think that there's the issue is very complex, obviously. But the whole so the concept there's no good guys in this. I think people get triggered on that or whatever. But here's the thing that really bothers me. I understand if you're under oppression, violent oppression for a period of time, and I think Captain, you were saying something about somebody, or I don't know whoever it was. You're growing up in the system. You know nothing other than that.
Yep.
Like you don't know any other metric of making an ethical call or a moral call. It's just like all I know is this violent oppression. I've been to Iraq. I talked to these young kids who grew up in the first the Gulf War,
yep.
right? And it's illuminating, to say the least. So yeah, I've witnessed it myself. But here's the thing: I think Stefan Molyneux talks about what universal preferable behavior is an alternative to the concept of the non-aggression principle, bringing it back down to at a fundamental level. Even when we're young, we recognize ethics and morality as a fundamentality to existence. In that sense, this is what I'm going to say. I don't think it's acceptable for a paramilitary force, whatever you want to call it, military force, terrorist force. I think they're all just buzzwords or whatever. These are desperate people, obviously.
Yeah.
But when you break it down to the fundamental level, is it really admissible as an acceptable tactic to target, quote unquote, civilians? Now, this gets hairy because when you expand the scope of a target with the concept of the aggressors, right? And this is where we get into this tribalist, like, oh, you got the red coat on too.
Well,
you know, like you're wearing the Star of David too.
Pause there for a moment because I'll address it. Right. It's not good. It's not that anyone is saying, at least for me, it's not that I'm saying that it's acceptable for Hamas to attack Israeli women and children. Right. What I take issue with is the lack of concern by the world, the West, and mainstream media when Israel attacks Palestinian women and children. There's no fucking outcry. No one says a goddamn thing. It doesn't hit the news cycle. You don't hear about it. But Palestinian deaths
100%.
outnumber Israeli deaths over the course of the conflict like 10 or 1,000-fold. Right?
I'm looking.
I would push back and say that that's not a good enough reason to side with Palestine.
I'm not siding with Palestine. I'm siding against the hypocrisy.
You're not, but like basically the entire left of America's political spectrum is
right,
and that's fucked up.
So here's the other part of it.
Everybody wants to be on a side of a team. This is all sport.
Yeah,
it's
all
global
sports.
war sports.
Here's the other part of
live
that.
streams going. It's the Super Bowl of it's the newest Super Bowl of warfare. Woohoo!
So
Bombs are flying.
here's the other side of that. If you're on the Israeli side and you have a history of bombing Palestinian women and children, you don't get to cry foul when they bomb your women and children. You can't do that and then play the fucking victim on the world stage.
Well, obviously you can.
Well, they're doing it, but that's why I'm against the hypocrisy.
I'm against it.
Right?
All right. Are you interested to hear the counter to that?
Please.
Okay. So,
only if you can be frank about it.
for us, okay, I'll try to be frank. For us, it goes back to 9/11, right? And people, they hate us because of our freedom. Yeah. And I got an argument with yesterday at the bar. We are to blame for 9/11. Now, does it justify?
What did you do, Frank?
What I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, though.
But so pause there again, because that's in the 9/11 Commission report.
Yeah. Is the U.S. federal government to blame for 9/11? Fuck yeah! According to their story of what the fuck happened there, yeah, it's 100% their fault.
It's in their own report. History of violence against the Arab people from the 1950s, with all the CIA initiatives and operations, came to a head on 9/11.
Yep.
So yes, it's the American government's fault.
Good job, Frank.
Yep.
And if the American government is at fault, you can't blame the people who have been bombed out of existence for 50 years when they retaliate against a civilian building, which isn't even really a civilian building.
But all of that was not in my backyard.
But it was government offices that civilians happen to occupy.
Hey, Frank, thank you so much for the call, man. We appreciate you. We're coming up on our break time.
Don't start none, won't be none. Mm-hmm. If you don't mess with them, the likelihood is that they won't mess with you. And if they do, then you have a good reason to defend.
Yeah, it turns out blowback is real.
Fucking A.
So, normally, as we're coming up on our break time, so normally I would play some music during the break, which I will do.
But we're going to do an a cappella jingle instead.
Well, what I wanted to find was...
About Silver Rounds?
No. I'm a big fan of this this band.
Silver Rounds.
I'm a big fan of this band called Prong, and I'm looking for something where one of his songs was. Here we go. So Prong, this metal band, they're not thrashy. They're sort of techno doom, heavy groove.
Slam bands.
They're groove-oriented band. One of my favorite bands. Tommy Victor is a great guitar player. They released a new album called Breaking Point. So the title track on this album is called Breaking Point.
Oh, go figure.
And the paragraph here, this is from bravewords.com. Prong released a lyric video for Breaking Point, which could be interpreted as anti-government song.
Oh, no.
To which Tommy Victor says, it could be. We live in an era where you can't even say anti-government. You can't be anything.
Say Uncle Government.
You can't be, yeah, right, Uncle Government. You can't be anything that the media tells us not to be.
Are you telling me Uncle Sam is transgender?
It's 2023. Wouldn't doubt it.
You're making me reflect on this song pretty well here, where they have this agenda. They're telling us how to think, and if we don't, we're in trouble.
Just wait till it's the first question mark in the White House.
It's very dangerous times on that end. I think people are fed up with it. I really do. So I want to play some of this album, which just came out. It's only a couple of days old. And we will start, of course, with Breaking Point, the song in question from Tommy Victor and Prong, as soon as I can find where the starting point is. Because...
in the beginning...
Yes.
The song started.
Well, not necessarily in the beginning, but...
and it went all the way until the end of the song.
And of course, it doesn't give us the thing to do so.
You can tell we're professionals.
Yeah, you can
We're
tell.
going to start singing Silver Bells again if I don't hear some music.
All right,
first.
All right, but this time, can I please have not the soprano part? Not exactly my bailiwick.
All right, we're going to take a break. This is Beard Talk Live. We'll be back in 10 minutes, 603-283-6160.
96
A larger brim is a pimpier hat. In fact, the pimpiness of the hat is directly proportional to the accoutrements of the hat. And with a brim that small, you can't say it's the pimpiest hat that there ever was.
I think you just have Ian's pimp hat in your mind as like the large hat, but like find like a real pimp, he's probably wearing a Homburg.
If you listeners wondered if we just stopped talking for some period of time during the break, the answer is no. No, we don't. The conversation continues without you while we're taking a break from, well, talking. So we did that. We took a break from talking by continuing to talk. And now
it's because Bob Green wasn't here.
And now we're done with our break time talking to talk some more. Yeah. So anyway, the music you got to listen to was Prong. They just released this album a couple of days ago. It's called State of Emergency. Go buy it. Go download it. Go listen to it. Add it to your, playlist or whatever the fuck. This is Beard Talk Live, 603-283-6160. If you're watching, listening, and you want to call in, that is the number that you need to use. Of course, in the studio, the three beardos are myself, the captain.
And Peakless Mountaineer.
And Rich.
We've been talking about a lot of shit. We started
talking shit.
Yeah, we started talking about Ireland, and I want to continue doing that because there's a second article written by the same guy some period of time later after the first one. And so the first one was called 1,000 Years of Irish Anarchy. And it pointed out that the Irish had something that resembled a stateless society. They still had organization, they had arbitration, they had, what they call elders, right? They would have a person of an upstanding reputation do arbitration for them rather than employ the forcible policing and courts and all that kind of stuff. But this one goes a little bit deeper because 1,000 years is one thing, but 9,000 years? That's a whole other thing. He says, I posted once before on Ireland and their anarchy that lasted for more than 1,000 years. This most remarkable historical example of a society of libertarian law and courts first came to my attention while reading Murray Rothbard's For a New Liberty. We covered that already. Murray Rothbard documented the Irish anarchy in his book For a New Liberty, The Libertarian Manifesto, when he wrote in part, the most remarkable historical example of libertarian law and courts, however, has been neglected by historians until very recently. And that was also a society where not only the courts and law were largely libertarian, but where they operated within a purely stateless and libertarian-style society. This was ancient Ireland, an Ireland which persisted in this libertarian path for roughly 1,000 years until its brutal conquest by England in the 17th century. And in contrast to many similarly functioning primitive tribes, such as the Igbos in West Africa and many European tribes, pre-conquest Ireland was not in any sense primitive. It was a highly complex society that was for centuries the most advanced, most scholarly, and most civilized in all of Western Europe. For 1,000 years then, the ancient Celtic Ireland had no state or anything like it. As the leading authority on ancient Irish law had written, there was no legislature, no bailiffs, no police, no public enforcement of justice. There was no trace of state-administered justice. How, then, was justice secured? The basic political unit of ancient Ireland was the tuath. All free men who owned land, all professionals, and all craftsmen were entitled to become members of a tuath. Each tuath's members formed an annual assembly which decided all common policies, declared war or peace on other tuatha, and elected or deposed their kings, quote unquote. Kings is the only.
I don't want to cut you off prematurely.
Sure you do.
Well, maybe.
You're going to. You just did.
Understood, but I don't want to. But this seems like the same thing we talked about in the first hour.
Yep, we're getting there.
Okay. We're recapping.
You feel compelled.
Yeah.
I understand.
Well, I just want to make sure that, we're picking up where we left off as opposed to just doing the same thing we did the first time.
There's more depth here than in the first one because of the difference of the 1,000 to the 9,000 years.
Right.
Okay. So, at any rate, often two or more tuatha decided to merge into a single, more efficient unit, As Professor Pedden states, the Tuath is thus a body of persons voluntarily united for socially beneficial purposes, and the sum total of the landed properties of its members constituted its territorial dimension.
So mergers and acquisitions.
In short, they did not have a modern state with its claim to sovereignty over a given, usually expanding territorial area, divorced from the landed property rights of its subjects. On the contrary, Tuatha were voluntary associations which only comprised of the landed properties of its voluntary members. In other words, 100% voluntary. Think of these as similar to friendly societies, right? Where a bunch of people get together for a purpose. Right? I talk all the time about how like healthcare used to be a friendly society would get together. Every member would pool a bunch of money, hire a doctor for a year, pay a salary, and then everybody in that friendly society gained access to that doctor. Very similar to the structure of the Tuath.
I feel like to get to 9,000 years, we have to work backwards 8,000 years because we already know this was conquered in like the 1600s.
Right.
Okay.
Historically, about 80 to 100 Tuatha coexisted at any time throughout Ireland. Notice that Rothbard and others have said that the Irish anarchy lasted 1,000 years. Rothbard wrote, "This was ancient Ireland, an Ireland which persisted in this libertarian path for roughly 1,000 years. But what happened around 600 AD, that marks the starting point of the Irish anarchy. We find that the documentation of this libertarian period began around 600 AD, when Christian monks and priests came to Ireland as they were fleeing the violent upheavals surrounding the fall of the Roman Empire. These monks are the ones to bring modern writing to the Irish. The Irish had a form of written communication that did not document history. That was done by their oral traditions, quote unquote. The Christian clergy over a long period of time assembled a book called the Book of Invasions to document in written fashion the Irish oral traditions. So their stories, their history was passed mouth to mouth. Right, person to person. There was no. It wasn't written.
I don't think
down.
it was passed mouth to mouth.
Well, you get what a mouth to ear.
That's not what you pass that way.
Mouth to ear. The oral traditions and any written histories showed no shift in the Irish culture in any way. No wars or conquests. So we would have to believe that anarchy that met the Christian immigrants and confused them in 600 AD was not new at all, but had a long history even at that point.
And so, to interject here.
Mm-hmm.
In illiterate civilizations, there is an extreme conservatism. I mean, basically what happens is that when you don't write things down, things don't change. So the culture that gets passed on just gets passed on exactly as it is from one generation to another is what usually happens.
Generation to generation, yes. We can say with certainty, and there's only a couple of more short paragraphs here. We can say with certainty that it ended with the English invasion in the 1640s. So we're going to count backwards from that, apparently. We can find no archaeological site that indicates any central state other than just one slight possibility that goes back 5,500 years, or the few hill fortresses built on southern Ireland to repel the invading Swiss Celts of 100 BC. There's much evidence of farming, prosperous trading communities, centers of art, and religious areas going back 9,000 years, but no evidence of any state. All we can find is evidence that the Irish lived peaceably for an extended period of time and were trading goods and services with their neighbors. There's no reason or any evidence to believe anything other than the Irish anarchy lasted at least 9,000 years, possibly even more than that. The history of a state is the record of that state conducting wars. And we find the Irish history records peaceful, voluntary, cooperation, until the barbarous England invaded in the 1640s. Almost any time I talk with a modern American, I'm asked, how in the world do I expect people to be able to exist without a government to control them? Besides the obvious facts that governments are our biggest enemy and should be done away with on their record of tyrannies, we have seen anarchies work before, and that should give us something to model our plans on.
I mean, I like the idea of it, but lack of evidence is not evidence to the contrary either.
Sure. Honestly, I was surprised to find out that the 1,000 years was not just assumed, but actually historically documented.
Right.
Sort of.
And so what this guy is saying,
sort of, like, no, 600, what odd?
Well, because there was a gap. They're like, it started in 600.
Right.
And
then, no, that's the thing. Like 600 is when they started documenting that this was going on.
All right.
So from 600 to 16 whatever,
40 or whatever.
All right.
We know that in terms of history, of written history by these Christians.
Okay.
Now, before 600 AD,
no documentation.
No documentation, which it is exactly what their culture was. It was. They thought that like horrible things happen when you write things down, which fair enough. There are some serious trade-offs by writing things down. So they had a very strong oral tradition. In order to become one of their wise people, the Druid tradition, you had to recount the entire history of the people from memory, from start to finish. And that seems impossible until you realize they used jingles.
Yeah, totally possible.
Yeah, so
I'd
just
say that
like
because
you hear a song and like it was one of your favorite albums, and as soon as that song ends, your brain starts playing the song after that, even though the radio is playing something else entirely.
There's a song I learned in grade school called 50 Nifty. And it basically is all of the United States in alphabetical order to a jingle. And so I can't do it without singing, right?
Yeah.
Like I could write it down, right? I could in my head, Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut. Right.
Yeah.
That's how it started.
But can you do all the countries Animaniac style?
I cannot. No.
Okay.
No. But
Nor I.
but yeah, absolutely. I could see how that works as a version of recorded history, right? If you put it to jingles, the human brain conceptualizes it.
Yeah, we're crazy good at that. Like
So-
to the point that that's what they're taking advantage of to advertise.
So what this person is looking for, Mark Stovall, I believe, is this guy, the author of this. He's saying what Peakless said. Starting in 600, we see documentation of this libertarian style society. So 600 to 1600, 1,000 years. Okay, let's just use that number. Now let's go look for evidence before 600 AD. Let's look for anything we can find: archaeological evidence, anecdotal evidence, other tribes or countries or communities of people who did write things down that may have traded with them or whatever. None could be found. Right? So is that indicative that it may have been up to 9,000 years? Perhaps. But that's the point. The point is that this type of society possibly lasted 9,000 years. I say possibly.
Again,
I admit
makes
that,
for a good story.
That there's probably.
Well, no. Makes for a good story is like Hercules and the Hydra, but no, this logically fits. So of the information that we have of pre-literate cultures, we do have tremendous documented historical evidence of the extreme conservative culture. They basically tend to be the exact same culture from generation to generation to generation in pre-literate societies. Now, once you start introducing literacy, then people start going, oh, well, I've checked the books and we haven't tried XYZ yet. Let's try that. And it, seems like a good idea because even if I'm wrong, we can write down that it didn't work.
The problem with libertarian argumentation is the opposition always gives you a homework assignment. You go, well, prove it.
Right.
And then you'll come to this article and they'll say, well, 9,000 years.
Actually, I go to the other one, but
whatever. But the other
1,000 years.
The other one's probably better because there's documentation.
Right.
And if they're not convinced by the 1,000 years, right? Like, look, we found one. Ireland, ancient Ireland, 1,000 years of anarchy, right? You go like this. Look, I found the example you've been wanting me to find, so that we can move forward with this argument. That
and they come back with, oh yeah, Pax Romana.
I don't know what that means.
1,000 years of peace because of the state.
Oh well, sure they might do that, but if they're not convinced.
Have you seriously never heard of the Pax Romana?
No.
Oh, it's. Among
I am
history
not
buffs,
well
it's
read.
kind of important.
Yeah, I'm not a history buff. Because again, that's
and
the
you
homework.
Wins when I tell you to read a book.
Because I read a lot. I just don't read books. And I don't read history books because that shit's boring.
So I'd say that the boringness
Listen to a
of
show,
history,
damn it. You should know this about Richie Rich.
The boringness of history is a psyop.
Okay.
Yeah, so the public education system intentionally makes certain things very, very boring.
Okay.
And prime among that is history, because the last fucking thing they want is people learning history on their own.
All right, then how come the Bible's boring?
Dude, the Bible's not boring.
It's fucking boring as fuck.
It's not fucking boring. It has naked women and talking snakes in the first chapter. Come on.
Yeah, but it's incredibly boring to read.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I'm going to redirect. You argue, you give them the example, 1,000 years, they come up with Pax Romana, whatever.
Sure.
Don't care.
Okay.
If they're not convinced by the 1,000 years, and you go, well, look, it goes back even further, 9,000 years, and they're going to say, show me the proof. And you're going to have like the article with oral history and tradition, right? And you've gone down this
sure,
rabbit
it's not proof. It's evidence, but it's not proof. I'll give you that.
Right. But again, it's the homework assignment mentality that opponents of libertarian theory always send you to do, right? Who will build the roads? And then you got to like go fucking find Walter Block's, private property and road building book, and you got to like read this tome.
No, I just go people.
Okay.
People will build the roads.
Yeah.
And you've convinced the statist to convert to libertarian and anarchism by going people will build the roads.
Well, okay, so then you just wait for their next counter, right?
Right. That's the thing. There's always something else, right? And this is where Daryl got in trouble years ago.
So the problem there is they're not actually articulating what their real argument is and what their real question is. What their real question is not like, well, how will the asphalt get there? Their real question is like, okay, our current system has this kind of collective ownership of the roads, and that collective ownership is how our civilization operates. So how can a civilization operate without this kind of collective ownership that is instantiated, for example, in roads?
I would love for just one time some statist to articulate in that manner.
Well, this
just
is why
one time I'd be like,
this is why you got to steel man your opposition.
I'm having a conversation with somebody who understands is articulating what they mean, right? Instead of going, but what about the roads?
So it's the question not being asked. Sales tactics, right? If you're overcoming objections in sales, you're not answering the question they ask. You're answering the question that they want answered,
right?
And you have to know what that is,
right?
And I think, as you've noted, Peakless, right? We know what the question is, so let's stop doing the fucking homework assignments. And for me personally, a history lesson to a statist is not going to change their position because they care even less than I do.
Well,
you got to get to their concerns.
I think what their concern then is why haven't I heard of a functional anarchist society, if it's possible?
And then you give them the example, and they're still unconvinced,
which is fair. I mean,
so why
honestly,
why go down that route?
Well, okay, so I do think that this is important, just so that we can remind ourselves. We're not actually creating something that's completely new. This isn't some kind of so Marxism is a cult.
Okay.
They are legitimately attempting a thing that has never been done.
Okay.
Now, I'm convinced that thing's not possible. They're convinced that thing is possible.
Well, because every time it's tried, it's failed, and they go, well, that wasn't the real thing.
Sure.
Right? We've got Ireland. We've got ancient Iceland, right? That's another one that gets brought up. Spain.
Let's do what we do here on Beard Talk Live. Beard Talk Live, who the fuck is this?
Rob.
Me, Rob.
Hey, me, Rob.
What's going on?
Chilling, homie. What's up?
You're on the show with Richie, Peakless, and myself?
Yeah. I see you guys on TV there. You look good.
Hi, Rob.
Yeah. So I got to agree with the captain, Peakless, about the Bible. It's not a very good book.
Boring.
It doesn't have a very happy ending, But I mean, if you
it's the number one
read a
bestseller
good
of all
Bible,
time.
you'd
The
be
evidence
better
does
off to
not
read
suit
the
your.
Quran.
Yeah, but just because motels buy a bunch of them every fucking year.
Hey. You know what the number
They
one?
actually don't.
You know what the number one restaurant in America is? Fucking Taco Bell.
You know what? When they stop beheading babies over Harry Potter, we'll talk.
You'd be better off reading the Quran. It's a better book.
It's the same book. It's just an updated
the Bible
edition.
is not the same as the
With
Quran.
a different author.
So
but
you're
the
saying
Bible
it's...
Read the Book of
It's a
Mormon, for
read-
God's sake.
It's an IP violation?
Yeah.
The Bible Part 2.
100%.
Sorry, Rob, you're going to have a hard time talking over us. Go ahead.
All right, so I'm just agreeing with the captain that the Bible's it's not truthful. It's like I said, it doesn't have a very happy ending.
It's also curated.
You know?
Go read some of the other books.
Well, what do you think the ending is?
Well,
Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse.
That's not the end.
Dragons and snakes.
But then,
I mean,
that's not the real
basically, the thing literally ends happily ever after. Like, it's real non-specific, which is kind of annoying, but it does, say, and then there will be no more pain and no more sickness and no more death.
Because everyone's dead.
Well, I don't know. I
Which,
can't.
okay, fair enough, but like, there's something valuable in that, like, hey, whatever the fuck it is that we are doing, we should probably try and aim at less pain, less sickness, and less death.
Go ahead, Rob.
Well, I prefer to, believe nothing I hear and half of what I see.
What were you really calling about, Rob?
The reason why I was really calling was that there was an article that came out in the paper over in New Hampshire about the New Hampshire Retirement System panel seeks more data on proposals to increase some benefits.
Okay.
And it's really kind of disturbing.
In what way?
I'm sorry, what?
It's a story
Old people
that
want more
came
money.
out that, they want more money and they want more security.
Yeah, and the Bible's boring. Dude, I couldn't even hear out that sentence. It's like, oh, the state fucking people over again.
Well, but that's something that's happening. The Bible is something that, somebody's made up. It's make-believe.
Go read Aesop's Fables instead. Or Grimm's Fairy Tales.
Well, yeah, sure, okay. Maybe it is make-believe, but there's that doesn't...
Maybe she's born with it.
Maybe it's Maybelline.
I mean, again, every blockbuster you've ever seen was make-believe. Does that mean that it was boring? No.
Nah, what it means is the shit's too deep.
Yeah. I mean, like, I grew up in...
Not my complaint with the thing.
What do I want to call it? Like, for lack of a better term, Christian families. I had several families. I had multiple mothers and fathers. I think something like 6 sets of parents. So at least 6 different churches. So there were 6 different versions of said Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then at some point I went through, what do you call it? Confirmation.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Where like,
I did that.
you got to go study some Bible shit. You got to meet with the Rev. That's what we called him, Rev. And, go through some, class type shit. And then you got to take a test. And then you got to go through a bullshit ceremony.
God, I don't remember any of that.
That supposedly marks your, becoming a man, right? It's a lot like a bar mitzvah, right? Except it's the Christian version. It's like sort of the coming of age, right? Oh, you've reached puberty. And so now you got to go take these special classes. You got to study some Bible. Holy fuck, dude. Like, just boring as fuck, dude. Boring as fuck.
Oh, yeah. I'll grant you that one.
Like, oh, my God.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, these things don't have to be boring. Like, okay, history.
Use your imagination.
History is not actually fucking boring.
No,
history is not actually fucking boring.
I didn't say history
the crap
was boring.
that they teach you in school
the Bible
and call
was
it history is fucking boring.
Yeah, history itself is not boring. I agree.
Like, and the Bible is not actually boring. It's got a lot of fucking problems. Like, personally, my current problem that I'm very, very strongly wrestling with is that it seems to be allowing a whole lot of people to be totally okay with beating the shit out of their wives and kids. And that just keeps fucking happening. That's the problem that I'm wrestling with. But boring? That's the church that does that.
It tells you how hard you can hit them.
They packaged it in a way that made this not boring thing boring.
The book itself has nothing to do with the human behavior, right? The humans have everything to do with the human behavior, and it's just that they have this cult around this book.
I don't know, man. If you okay, you taught me to judge a thing by the output, right?
A system.
So,
system.
Judge a system by its output.
Right.
Okay, well, if this system keeps outputting this, then it could be that system is designed to output this. And it seems to me that the output of the Bible, especially in Christianity. But I mean, fuck, Christianity and Islam definitely have the beating of wives and the beating of children very much explained away as a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Gotta keep them bitches in line.
I would only say that I would recommend those kind of folks to smoke more marijuana. But
it's good use for your Bible pages.
Yeah. Is that in the Bible?
Yeah, well, Bible. It's made of rice paper, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, the Bible, actual real Bible paper is smokable. For those of you who don't know that, a Bible page can double as a rolling paper.
When I hear somebody teach me about the Bible, it's like, they expect me to believe and have faith in the Bible and have faith in it. Well, how do you accept this faith?
You just do. That's why they call it faith.
Right.
If you had evidence, it would no longer be faith.
How do you accept it?
Well, it's a human decision to accept something with a lack of evidence.
Well, hold on. Are you saying
9,000 years of anarchy?
Hold on. Are you saying how do you accept it or how do you expect it?
No. How do you accept it? How do you accept the faith?
How do you accept faith?
How do you accept it? Accept it.
A-C-C-E-P-T.
That's what I said.
Like I accept that captain's name is Captain Kickass. I accept that. Well, how do I accept the faith?
The same
in
way.
The Bible.
Apparently the same way. If you can accept the captain's name, right? Accept the Bible.
Yeah, I mean, you basically, like, you have faith that the captain's name is Captain Kickass. Like, you don't really have evidence. You just go with it, and it works.
Well, except there is evidence.
Yeah, but
is there?
Got business cards, got a website.
I have some pretty strong evidence of your name not being
believe what I say.
What is a name? Sorry, Rob, go ahead.
A label given to a piece of property.
No, I just don't know how to accept the faith.
Yeah, I mean, it's not required, man.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't like organized religions, period. I don't like them. Because generally, they're excuses for people to do bad things.
Do you have someone pressuring you to accept this faith, Rob?
Well, I have I don't know if I want to talk about it, but I mean, I have some, let's say, close family members that, try to encourage me into following their faith. And, what I'm saying is, as long as I believe in God and believe in myself, I'll be fine.
Yeah, so I'd say that, like, faith is one of those things that you can't tell a person to have faith any more than you can tell them to have joy. Like, real faith is spontaneous.
I know,
and if someone's fucking telling you to have faith in something, they either are being hoodwinked themselves or they're a fucking snake oil salesman.
I don't know, man. People say have faith all the time.
Yeah, fuck that.
One day we will have freedom in New Hampshire. Just have to have faith.
Well, fuck that. No, I want reason and evidence for some shit like that.
There isn't any right now.
I'm not sure I want faith.
I disagree. We just got a chunk of evidence that it's at least possible for a civilization to operate without a state. That's some evidence, and I have plenty of reason for it. But faith, I'm not going to act on it like that. Sorry, Rob, go ahead.
I have evidence. And the evidence is you and I, Peakless, have shook hands. And I know that you're a worthwhile person deserving of pride.
I appreciate the compliment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and faith,
and
you will generate plenty of faith in some things yourself. And some of that's going to be misplaced and some of that's going to be right on. But when someone's telling you that you should have faith in a thing, fuck that.
I don't know if I want to have this faith because it sounds like she's been around to everybody. I'm not sure what she's carrying.
Here's the difficulty accepting the Irish anarchism as something plausible in the future. Right? Like they had it for 9,000 years.
Well, let's just say 1,000.
Okay. They had it for 1,000 years.
Let's say 9,000.
Let's say 9,000 years. And then they were overthrown by a state that has existed since then. Right? And that's the condition we're in. We don't get like the a priori, oh, could this exist before state intervention? We need evidence that it can exist after state intervention. And that's a more difficult example to come with if we're going to parallel it with our current situation.
I think that's a fair question, but I can't completely answer it, but I can give you a part of an answer.
Okay.
So what we know for sure is that we can move from heavy statism to light statism.
Yes.
Like that we know for sure.
Agreed.
Is it really that unbelievable that we can just move a little bit further when we're moving out of heavy statism?
Good question.
Yeah, good question.
I don't know. I think there's so much.
And that's the thing. I think they moved to light statism because they didn't think no state would work. And they thought that light state would work.
Okay.
And now we know for sure light state does not work. So this time when we throw off heavy state, we should really and could really try no state.
Rob?
I just think that there's too much corruption going on, and it's not just in one state, it's around the whole fucking world.
Right, because statism is corruption.
Well, I mean, we've just got done talking about religion, which is organized, and then you got organized governments and shit.
Yeah.
And it's all one big fucking rainbow spaghetti of fucking mess, and we got to keep calling this fucking crap out.
That's a good question, Rob. Is in this rainbow spaghetti, is the rainbow part the sauce or the noodles?
I'm having trouble visualizing this.
Try more acid.
Is it like a pasta salad with like 3 different colors of spaghetti noodles?
You just have to have faith in the great flying spaghetti monster who
I'm not
reaches
a
out with his
pastafari.
noodly appendages and
I'm
gives
not a
you
pastafari.
rainbows.
Man, that's the first time Pastafarian has come up in a long time. Like, I think when I first started doing Free Talk Live, I mentioned Pastafarianism at some point. But, man, leave it to Beard Talk Live. Hey, Rob.
But no, it's a big goddamn mess.
Hey,
He's
Rob.
absolutely right about that.
Hey, Rob,
Hey, will you let me go here?
No, I can't let you go yet. I can't let you go yet because we have to do the amble, and I know you know these words, Rob. So are you ready to do the amble with us?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, here we go.
Shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits.
All right,
That's
hey,
right,
thanks for
baby.
the call, Rob. We appreciate you. 603-283-6160. Yeah, like...
Goddamn gay
Well,
spaghetti.
and that's the thing, corruption's everywhere, and it's never going to not be everywhere.
Well, statism is institutionalized corruption.
That's the thing that we can change, is the institutionalization of it.
Right.
Because once we institutionalize it, then everyone's okay with it.
Right.
And that's the problem.
Well, that's where we're
You can't
at.
be okay with evil. I don't care how you package it. You got to stop being okay with evil. That's not to say that we're ever going to eradicate it from the earth, but fuck, we can at least do a little bit better with it.
It's certainly preferable to the whatever the fuck it is we're living in today.
Just carve it out in our little state of New Hampshire, but you got to defend right against encroachment.
Which is why we need numbers.
It's a good place to start.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the way, honestly. Like, I mean,
secession is not the way.
No. The defend against encroachment, I think that's the wrong focus, is what I'm saying. Like, I think that basically the people who were going to be fucking with us will be way too distracted to fuck with us once they lose the ability to print infinity dollars.
Okay. And
they'll just have better things to do than us.
If we're lucky. And that's not to mean that they're not going to be the only ones to attempt it, right? So the old quote, right, is the price of liberty or the price of freedom. I forget what it is. So paraphrasing, I guess, not quoting.
$1.05.
Okay.
And you know what?
Is eternal vigilance.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking of
you know what would have kept Ireland from getting conquered by the British?
Violent opposition.
No, they did that. It didn't work.
It worked the first 2 times.
Okay. You know what would have kept them from being occupied?
Protecting their borders.
No, they tried. It didn't work.
The first 2 times.
What would have worked all of the times? Just don't pay taxes. It really is that fucking simple. Now, granted, we have a weird way of paying taxes in the modern world. The way that you pay taxes is by accepting dollars, which you know they can print, for your time, your energy, your stuff.
I don't think
it's a weird way to pay taxes, but it's still just fucking taxes. If you don't pay taxes, then you're not conquered.
That's a terrible definition of not being conquered.
Really?
Yeah.
Give me an example.
When the marauders are coming through, it's not the taxes they're trying to collect, and it's not the voluntary giving of taxes that they're worried about.
Taxes aren't voluntary. You know that.
Well, then you can't just stop paying them. Stop giving them taxes. They're going to take it violently.
Yeah, you don't pay taxes; they take taxes. But I'm glad that you do bring this up, as
the plunder and the pillage doesn't cease.
Yeah, you don't have to help the plunderers.
They're taking it.
You fill out forms.
You're
forms helping the
now,
plunderers.
But we're talking about like ancient Ireland. I don't think the Britons came across the channel, right, with a bunch of paperwork going like, okay, we're here now.
Well,
yeah, and if every fucking time that they showed up for their cattle tax, you had moved your cattle somewhere goddamn else, then they'd eventually run out of the money to pay the soldiers to collect the taxes.
So I'm glad you bring up like the tax. I don't even know what to call it. I was hoping it would come up earlier in this conversation when we talked about sort of modern statism, because conquest in modern statism is only attractive to people who want to take over the existing tax base. Right? So if Canada wanted to invade New Hampshire, for example, they would only benefit from doing so if they could capture the tax base of New Hampshire and now include it in their milking of the tax cattle.
Or the natural resources.
But that's a tax on the land, if you will.
Well, hold on. I mean, we might be dealing with an actual exception of that. I mean, it's a slight exception, but when we're talking about the Tuatha being put under British rule, like, it sounds to me like they didn't have a tax structure that the British then took over. But I bet you dollars to donuts that they got the consent of the people who were considered wise, and those wise Tuatha then started telling people taxes are good and you should pay them.
So you think it was a propaganda campaign that took down ancient Ireland?
I think the propaganda campaign was
No, they were brutalized
to it.
until they fucking surrendered.
It was not.
So it wasn't taxes.
It wasn't just the propaganda technique, but the propaganda technique was
That's not necessarily
essential.
true. Why would England want to brutalize Ireland into submission?
For the resources.
And
it's not
are
the taxes.
humans not resources?
Humans are resources.
All right. So what benefit does the Empire
Irish
of England
slaves.
get? Irish slaves, right? Now, we know that overt slavery is when somebody takes 100% of your life's effort, right? When they take less than that, what's it called?
Taxation, or it's still slavery.
Thank you. So there you go. So
I don't know where
Ireland did not have an existing tax program, right? They did not have an existing
but they were
form of
brutalized into
government.
accepting one.
They were brutalized into accepting one, and that's what England was after, was to acquire this additional number of human beings to add to their tax base. However they extracted value from those people is almost irrelevant because it can be called taxation.
Well,
right?
They had to stay. If they left and then came back later, right, then you could just meet opposition again, and you have to, like, conquer all over
Well,
again.
and we saw that they had to do it 2 or 3 times
Right.
before the conquering was actually, we'll say, permanent or
Sure.
semi-permanent, right? And has remained so to this day. So brutalizing people, into slaves is how conquest works and has always worked. We just call it taxation these days because, like, we're sort of free-range slaves.
Okay. And if you stop paying your taxes, the brutality comes back.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
If they can find... Well, if enough of you do it.
So a lot of the argument of the necessity of an existing tax structure is an argument of, would you rather...
tax base, people. I'm talking about humans as a resource.
Well, I mean, even as a structure. So, like, Yeah, sure. It would be great to take over New Hampshire because you have a tax structure. Like, people are already used to paying taxes. There's a method of collecting them. The network already exists.
There's a method of collecting them?
Of collecting taxes in New Hampshire? Yeah.
No, meth head.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry. I was making a joke. You missed it.
Oh, I did.
Okay, go ahead.
Can I?
Carry on.
I don't know, can you?
So it makes a very tempting target.
I interrupt them one fucking time.
In that it makes a very tempting target in that the tax structure already exists. So all you have to do is make the endpoint not DC, but your own pocket. Now, if, on the other hand, New Hampshire does not have a taxation structure, and this is crucial, and, say, Maine does, and you could take over New Hampshire, but you could just as easily try and take over Maine, then you're going to aim at Maine because it gives you a better return on investment for your brutality.
Right.
Now, the reason that Ireland got taken over by England is not because it had such a great payoff. It's just it was an easy target because it was right there.
Proximity.
Proximity. Every other target was harder to get to. So they kept trying to do this one, not because it was a great payoff, because, well, it's right there. So I think that's a big part of the argument that gets missed, is that, okay, even without a tax structure, like, it really depends on, do you have a different target for them to aim at?
As connected to the United States, we are right fucking here. Because they've already got Maine, they've already got Vermont, they're not going into Canada. So if New Hampshire separates, we're still right here.
Right.
We're not going anywhere. We're not going to move the landmass of New Hampshire. We're still going to be surrounded on three sides by the United States.
Yeah, I think the opportunity that we're going to get is when the American dollar goes to zero.
Okay.
And there will be so much resulting chaos in that they simply won't have the power to keep us under their reign.
This might be like a scooterish like thought process here, but hear me out. It would be almost beneficial to have a power-hungry governor who wants all that for himself. Because then he would lead the charge.
What?
Because he would lead the charge to secede, knowing that he would then capture all those taxes from the existing tax base.
It is a fair argument.
Benevolent dictator?
Well,
a dictator that performs unwilling benevolence.
Like, look, I want to take steps to get to something that resembles the society that we've described amongst the Irish, right? Something where, you know, we have a civilization, we have technology, we have cooperation, we have community, we have systems of resolving disputes and all that kind of stuff. And so within that quest, like if that's the destination, I support taking steps in that direction, right?
You can't even get libertarians here who have moved for the Free State Project to want to move past the state level secession. They're going, no, state's the perfect size. Why do you, if you break it up into counties, then it's too hard to travel because different counties will have different rules and you'd be under all kinds of different threats and from different places. And so like state's the perfect size.
Think of the passports.
Right. Yeah. And I've heard that argument.
Well, I mean, that's basically what turned Mark into a status. Our passports are awesome.
Okay.
If you secede, you won't have the American passport. Think of all of the countries that you would then have to negotiate being able to go to.
Yeah. I don't want to go there because they're fucking full of status.
True. Seriously. No, I think that
I have zero
this is going to get. I think this is going to get accomplished in a network method. Like,
okay.
Whether or not this is the particular place that continues to be the spear point of freedom, I don't know. But I do know this. There is a technology that is fundamentally freedom. And it is a more powerful technology than the competing systems of value. And technologies have this weird way of, if you keep using them, the ideologies that are encoded inside of them become a part of you.
Are you going back to cryptocurrency?
Yes.
Okay.
It's exactly what I'm talking about.
We tend to do that here at Beer Talk Live.
Well, and again, we're on Beer Talk Live, right? So I can shit talk Edge a little bit, not Edge, but Dash a little bit.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
They're not a sponsor.
Not of this program anyway.
And dear Dash, if you want us to quit shit talking you, give me some.
So at one point in time, there was an interview on like Free Talk Live, and I think I came in and I talked about this afterwards. The Dash representative or whomever that dude was pitching the idea of inflationary Dash. And so aside from Bitcoin's cap at 21 million, right? Like the other cryptocurrencies out there are inherently inflationary.
No.
What do you mean no?
So Litecoin, for example, Bitcoin Cash, there are non-inflationary, non-Bitcoin currencies.
Right. Okay. But all the other ones, right? The 8,000, 17,000 other ones.
Some of them are, some of them aren't.
Which one do you think the government is going to use to buy their weapons?
Tether.
Go on.
USDT?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%. No, I think there's some weird, creepy backroom deals, which is why they only got a slap on the wrist for this. I think basically Tether is their way of surviving the apocalypse.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's their way of getting onto the distributed blockchain. And, I mean, keeping some semblance of their original power. I mean, it won't be all of the power that they have now, but it'll be a lot more than they would have if they didn't have these deals with Tether.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think that's the one that they're going to use for their digital currency.
So they're not going to be using a non-inflationary currency.
Correct.
Tether, they said, is tied 1-to-1 to the dollar until it wasn't.
I mean,
So
you can
what is
still
it?
get dollars for it if you want.
Okay.
And like their model basically works for them to be tied 1-to-1. Their business model is sound on that, but yeah, it's a completely inflationary currency and a controlled currency.
All right.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be for like my kids to fight. That's
Okay.
going to be the battle that they have to fight is like, hey, inflationary blockchain versus non-inflationary blockchain, or even controlled inflationary blockchain. Because Tether can get inflated as much as they feel like, whereas say Monero at least has some kind of cap on its infinite inflation.
Somewhat.
Yeah, and I don't know which one's going to be more valuable.
I got it. But the hat constantly being hung up on blockchain or crypto is going to be the end of the state always seems exaggerated to me. It's great. We can use it to trade amongst ourselves, right? And that's a good use of the technology. But it's not in and of itself, it's not what takes down the state.
No, but it has the ability to replace the state.
I don't want to replace the state.
No. I mean replace all of whatever the state...
The valid functions that the state is currently monopolizing.
Right. So, for example, record keeping, right? For the longest time, the silo of the state has been like, it's official, right? You know, you get your wedding license, it's official, right? Who owns this plot of property over here? You got to go query the state to find the property lines, right? So this is something like all of the bureaucratic functions.
So now we have competing blockchains,
right,
keeping records, and there will be a dispute. Which blockchain wins out?
Well, you'd have to enter into some sort of dispute resolution.
Well, the one with the most proof of work is what I would pick.
Well, okay.
Or the timing, right? Who had the first claim?
I don't know.
Right?
Right.
How does that pan out? We don't know.
How
These
does
are
that
great
pan out?
questions.
Yeah.
These are really great questions that I would love to see the answer to, but we can't until the state gets the fuck out of the way.
Well, no. Well, that's the thing. You don't have to wait. If the technology is as good as you claim, you don't have to wait for the state to get out of the way because you can already do it, right? Like with an X, right?
Sure. Like I could upload a copy of the title to my vehicle, right, to the blockchain, right? Now it exists on whatever chain, right? Whatever chain I picked, and I pick Dash,
whatever,
right? It's on the Dash chain, just because you're ripping on Dash.
Because they purposefully wanted to inflate it.
And I have some serious issues with Dash.
And so now I want to sell my car to Peakless Mountaineer because his car broke and he needs to get a new one.
Okay.
And so we arrive at a price, and Peakless Mountaineer pays me the money, and I digitally sign this Satoshi, this little piece of Dash, and once that is transferred to him, he now owns the car.
Okay.
Right. So we do that, and now it's his car. I give him the keys, and he drives away. Where does the problem come in?
If someone else presumes to claim the same thing. So
they're like, that's my car. And if you look over here on Tron, I registered that was my car.
Right, but if we amend the Satoshi with the bill of sale between you and I, right, that's evidence that you bought the car for me.
Not even that. Let me make a counterexample with like real property and real estate.
Okay.
Right. Peakless, you have made the claim that you need to like mix your labor with the land, and so it shall be. Well,
that's the origin of property, is to mix labor with nature. Yeah.
I mix my labor with the land, and I have a plot of land. And then
you keep mowing that lawn?
What's that?
Like you keep mowing that lawn?
For a week. Let's just say I do it for a week. I mix my labor. This is my plot of land. I register it on the blockchain, and then I abandon it.
Mm-hmm.
And some squatter comes over and lays a claim to it and registers it on his blockchain because it's on mine. Maybe he knows about the blockchain company that I'm with. Maybe he doesn't. Who knows? Maybe he looks into it. No one's done anything with the land in a week or two. Who cares?
Okay.
And then I come back after he's improved the land further.
Okay.
I said, well, my blockchain says that I've had this parcel of land for 3 weeks now, and you've only had it for 1. Whose land is it?
Okay, so if he's got here's a picture of this plot of land, and
registered on the blockchain.
Right, exactly. So I've got the fingerprint on a blockchain, so I know that this isn't a doctored photo. Because if one damn pixel was a little different, it wouldn't have the same fingerprint.
And my blockchain precedes his by a week.
Yep. So we know for a fact that, okay, here's your picture. You've got, a nice mowed lawn. And then here's his picture. And it's all fucked up and clearly part of nature.
Or he mows the lawn and mixes his labor with it a week after I've mixed mine. Well, I registered it. He registered it.
You have the prior claim.
Okay.
It's really that simple. Okay, here's proof that you mixed your labor with nature. He has no proof that it was nature when he got there.
Yeah, so these arguments are great.
How long
fun.
does he have to wait?
I have something else that I need to get to because you guys are here. These arguments are great fun. I think that what you need is an agreed upon starting point, right?
You'll never find one.
Well, no, I think you will, because right now everybody agrees that the government is the registrar of officialness, right?
Okay.
So you just take every title and you go, okay, let's upload that to the blockchain, make a copy of that.
But there's already abandoned property and already squatters' rights to access that abandoned property.
Sure, and so no problem.
And I
with
don't
abandoned
recognize
property.
that.
What's that? You don't recognize it?
No.
Okay.
All right.
How long does it have to go before it's back in a state of nature?
Well, so when it stops being that thing. So, for example, a chair.
Okay.
Now, a chair, its purpose is to be sat upon.
The
argument,
argument of portable property is different from that of real estate.
Fine, a house,
a ghost town.
So a house, keeps the rain off your head and all that, right?
Yep.
You can live in the thing, right?
You can live in the thing.
Now, once you've left that the fuck alone to the point that it's not a house anymore,
so that it has to collapse.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Then it's not a house anymore. It has stopped being the thing that you made and returned to a state of nature. Now it's chaos again. So if someone comes along and they pull boards off of what used to be a house, but they can go look, this isn't a house.
So
okay.
Are you guys
clear enough?
Are you guys familiar? I'm segueing here. Are you guys familiar with North Dumpling?
No.
You've never heard North Dumpling? There has already been a successful, peaceful secession from the United States.
Okay.
Of North Dumpling.
It was led in 1988 by none other than Dean Kamen, inventor of the Segway.
Oh, okay.
I said Segway before the Segway because I knew Segway was coming up. I wanted a double Segway.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right.
Clever guy.
Among hundreds of other things, he's also the founder of FIRST, for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology, an organization created to build students' interest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Kamen, age 72, is a native of Long Island, New York. In 1986, he purchased North Dumpling, it's an island, North Dumpling Island, for $2.5 million. The island is 2 acres, located 3 miles from Noank, Connecticut. I'm probably mispronouncing that. Noank, N-O-A-N-K, Connecticut. It lies within the territory of the town of Southold on Long Island, New York, in New York State. It came with a mansion and a lighthouse. In a presentation Kamen gave to a small group in May 2015, this is the story of North Dumpling Island's secession. Kamen wanted to build an electricity-producing wind turbine on the island to power his home, but New York bureaucrats told him he couldn't. They said the proposed turbine was too big and the noises would disturb his neighbors.
And kill a whole bunch of birds.
Kamen owned the entire island. They told him he couldn't build any structure more than 40 feet tall without a variance, and he wanted to build a 100-foot tower. In November 1988, Kamen threatened to leave the state of New York and contacted Connecticut Senator George L. Gunther, Republican of Stratford, about annexation. I thought it might be better if North Dumpling Island annexed Connecticut, said Mr. Gunther. He went on to become Mr. Kamen's Secretary of Interstate and now holds dual citizenship. Kamen spoke with a friend at Harvard who happened to be an expert on constitutional law. They found a loophole that allowed him to secede not just from New York State, but from the U.S. entirely. As Kamen relates, we worked out a diplomatic settlement to avoid an armed conflict. Perhaps unsurprisingly, New York State didn't acknowledge the legitimacy of North Dumpling as a separate nation. It continued to send Kamen warning letters about his wind turbine. Kamen responded by sending the letters to the New York press with this statement: "See how disrespectful New York bureaucrats can be? They dare threaten the head of an independent nation state," quote unquote. Eventually, the warning letters stopped coming. The sovereign state of North Dumpling has its own flag, constitution, visas, and passport stamp. It also has a cabinet, a newspaper, the North Dumpling Times, and currency simply called the dumpling.
Nice.
I thought that was pretty great. The exchange rate is 1,000 dumplings to $1.
Okay.
And I don't know, like, does that flex at all with the value of the dollar?
I don't know why he
really
devalued
sure.
his dumplings so much.
Yeah. It has its own Navy, a surplus amphibious vehicle. It has an Air Force, a helicopter. Kamen playfully refers to himself as Lord Dumpling.
I like it.
It also has a national anthem with lyrics written by a Broadway director, Paul Lazarus, minister of brunch. The first verse, sung to the tune of America the Beautiful, goes, "Oh, isolate with star-filled skies and crashing waves of foam, from Moonwatch Hill to Great Stonehenge, oh, blessed second home." While visiting the White House, Kamen even got then-President George H.W. Bush to sign a non-aggression pact with North Dumpling.
Wow.
A local morning talk show visited North Dumpling to do a broadcast. Kamen asked one of the show hosts if he'd like to convert his U.S. dollars to dumplings. The host expressed skepticism, asking if dumplings were, quote, real currency, unquote.
It's the only currency you can spend on North Dumpling.
Kamen accurately pointed out that U.S. dollars are the currency that should really be questioned. The dollar had been taken off the gold standard decades earlier and was now backed by nothing but thin air.
Imagine if you had to pay North Dumpling dollars to get off the island, because it's the only currency that the helicopter will take.
If there's a restaurant on North Dumpling Island and they serve dumplings, do you pay for your dumplings with dumplings?
Apparently so.
Is it a dumplings?
Ooh.
Buffalo.
The nation of North Dumpling even gave foreign aid to the United States. On the wall of his home, Kamen has framed...
Wait, what?
The nation of North Dumpling even gave foreign aid to the United States.
They are now complicit in war crimes.
On the wall of his home, Kamen has a framed foreign aid national treasure bond in the amount of $100. The reason for the aid is printed on the certificate. This is a quote from the certificate. Once the technological leaders of the world, America's citizens have been slipping into woeful ignorance of and dismaying indifference to the wonders of science and technology. This threatens the United States with dire descent into scientific and technological illiteracy. The nation of North Dumpling Island hereby commits itself to helping rescue its neighbor nation from such a fate by supporting the efforts of the Foundation for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology in promoting excellence and appreciation of these disciplines among the peoples of the United States of America. North Dumpling Island is the world's first carbon negative nation.
All right.
Far outside and right on. They're self-sufficient anyway. They're not dependent on anyone else. Despite being the supreme leader of the independent nation of North Dumpling Island, Cayman spends most of his time right here in New Hampshire. He has a home in Bedford and founded...
Goddamn immigrants.
And founded and works at... he works at some DECA Research and Development Corp. Headquartered in Manchester. The New York Times article about North Dumpling Island points out, his lordship can always create another new country on the mountain he recently purchased in New Hampshire.
So we're moving to the mountains.
I mean, we're already in the mountains, really.
Oh.
New Hampshire is basically just in the mountains.
We're moving to the Cayman Mountains.
We need to get this guy on board with NH Secession, I think.
He might already be.
I don't know that he isn't. But this came from NewHampshireSecession.com. So
okay.
If you want to read this article, you can go over there. I thought that was pretty fucking neat.
Yeah.
Right?
Here's a guy, Bodden Island, said, hey, you know what? I want to build a thing. And government was like, fuck you.
Well, and the thing, like, you were talking about the Tuatha,
yeah.
And the thing was, you could just leave. Like, sure, there was this political organization, but you could just stop being a part of that political organization.
Right, if you didn't
and
like
no
the way
one
they
would stab
behaved.
you.
Right, if you didn't like the way they behaved or you didn't like the way they went about doing a thing, you could either go and find a Tuatha that did the things in the way that you thought
Would you have
were
to
good.
go? Because you're landlocked. You're land.
Well, no. You find an organization to belong to without moving, right? So you were free to go find another Tuatha to belong to that more aligned with your personal feelings and philosophies and whatever.
Like changing churches.
Or if none of the Tuatha did things in the way you wanted them to, you couldn't piecemeal it together. You could be like, I like the way they handle, medical care. I like the way they handle arbitration. But like two different Tuathas. You could take one, one piece from one Tuatha, one piece from another Tuatha, another from another, and sew them all together and make your own.
All right.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, this is what I foresee happening on the blockchain. I foresee people choosing from a menu of... I have, because I don't have a good term for this, I'm going to call it governance.
Okay.
Right? These are we called them earlier, what most people recognize as legitimate but yet monopolized things that government provides, like record keeping, for example, right?
Right.
So, or security services, right? What else do they monopolize?
Yeah, legitimate services that they monopolize. Trash,
roads,
electricity,
right, all that kind of stuff. So
plumbing.
So let's say I really like the dispute resolution of this country over here, right? It's voluntary, it's peaceful, right? I'm going to choose that as my governance, right?
Okay.
I really like how they do private security over here, so I'm going to choose from that menu and put that into, and now I become a nation of one. Right?
Okay.
With my own governance services that I have selected from a menu that align with me and myself politically and philosophically, right? And now, if somebody else wants to join my nation, the nation of Kick-Ass, they can, but they're not required to. So I foresee the blockchain facilitating a digital version of the Tuatha over time.
Why do you need the blockchain?
Yeah, that's...
So that other people can know what your preferences are.
Oh, so that you can keep a permanent record of all of this happening,
right?
And B, you can publish that so that anyone else can look at it and be like, "Hey, I've got the nation of Kick-Ass."
So and it actually promotes innovation. Right?
Yeah.
Because if somebody comes up with a better way, they just remove whatever they had there before. A better way of anything, like roads, all right? Oh, nope, that way sucks. I got a better way. Oh, it's in there. Now everybody else can see, oh, that dude's got a better way. Oh, and look, it works for him. Or that group of people have a better way, and it works for them. Oh, can we adopt something like that? Because we like that.
This is my electric company. This is my water company. This is my trash removal and sewer. This is my internet provider.
Right.
I don't need...
This is my roads provider.
Sure. I don't see why you need to publish that on a blockchain. They're the service provider.
Well, so here's one of the fun things about
if you want to share that with
technology.
your friends, fine.
Well, sure, but here's one of the fun things about the technology is that you can for free. So okay, I've got to pay for electricity, I've got to pay for internet service, I've got to pay for plumbing, all that, right? So I'm going to be paying anyway.
Right.
Now, in a civilized world, we'll be paying on the blockchain. Now, in the process of paying on the blockchain, I can just put this little fingerprint in here that is the evidence of exactly what I've done.
Okay.
And you're already paying anyway. So you're already putting that onto a blockchain. You might as well shift it in this way that encodes all of this information so that you have a permanent record of this.
I failed to see the use case, right? Like if I want to know who your internet service provider is, I go, Captain, who's got your internet?
Right.
And he tells me.
Right.
I don't need to go to a blockchain. I don't even need to go to
currently,
a website.
internet isn't a state monopolized service.
Okay, fine. Trash pick one then.
Roads.
Roads. Okay. Hey, Captain, who's your roads provider?
Yeah. I got Peakless Roads.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. I'm going to use Peakless Roads.
So the use case is to avoid effective dispute later. So whatever. Okay. So let's say
what dispute? You're just publishing who your service provider is.
Well, so yeah, that can be a useful thing. Like, okay, let's say it's internet service, right?
You don't necessarily need to publish your individual provider. You just subscribe to a Tuatha with all of these things, or
well, but like you're calling it like a Tuatha, like it's some important aspect of it, but it's not. It's just any random company providing
trash
a service.
pickup, right?
Okay.
So like, here's where my trash bin is, and here's who I'm paying to do that.
Okay.
Now, if later on, so trash company A is my actual provider.
Yep.
Now, when I paid them, I actually put the little fingerprint in there that included all of my stuff, and in and amongst that stuff is that trash provider A is my dude.
Okay.
Now, trash provider B comes along, they pick up my trash, and then they bill me.
Yep.
I can be like, no. I have the proof. I have the documents.
I think
you could do that anyway without blockchain.
I think the point that you're missing, I think, Richie Rich, I know when you shop for a thing, we've had discussions about stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't always go for like the cheapest thing. In fact, you like to research the thing and then find like something higher end, right? Maybe
buy
in the
once,
top 20%. Right. Buy once, cry once. Get yourself something nice that's going to last, so you don't have to rebuy it later on down the road. That's ultimately like a frugal decision in the long term view. Right. So the benefit to having something resembling a Tuatha is simply for the price discount. Once you belong to a group that has a whole bunch of these services, and it's a larger group of people, or even a smaller group of people, right? You're going to get either more services or a less price. There's going to be some benefit to it. Think of it as like a different version of Amazon Prime.
Okay.
Right? Except now you belong to this friendly society, if you will, this digital Tuatha, right? And they negotiate on the behalf of all of their membership base a better price or better services, or a longer contract to keep the services going at the lower rate, et cetera, and so on.
And you're saying like this is impossible without the blockchain.
No, but I'm not saying that's impossible without the blockchain. I'm saying it's more probable with it.
Okay.
Because it can replace current record keeping, current bureaucracy, and so it makes itself more apt to these types of ideas.
Well, and it's faster, easier, more efficient.
Right.
So like, let's say, I also say, I get my meat from Hannaford, right?
Sure.
And let's say that like I end up dying and I was very clearly poisoned by meat. And you're like, well, shit, where did he get his meat? Well, now we don't have to wonder that. We have an absolute proof. Oh, it was definitely that shop right there that had the tainted meat. Well, I can make sure that I don't deal with that fucking shop right there.
Yeah. I don't know if you went to like Captain's house and ate some of like Shaw's meat, and that's really what did it. And I don't know. I'm a market basket guy, so like, does it really affect me? Like, it seems like an extra step that doesn't add value.
Well, what it does, particularly in the case of you're getting a group of people together to negotiate on your behalf, so that you don't have to.
Yeah, it's
right. Instead of you calling the internet company, the roads company, the list goes on and on and on. Right. You just join one of these groups where they negotiate for you. Bam, Bob's your uncle.
Okay.
And all the records are kept by, the blockchain, so you can go and inspect them anytime you want. If they change how they do stuff over some period of time and you don't like it, you can go join another one. And if you don't like that, you could make your own.
All right.
So that's how I see it playing out, right? I see it playing out, taking a page out of history, right, and adapting it to the digital domain so that people can have their choice, their preference. We know that all three of us here are individuals. Your preference is different than mine. My preference is different than his. His is different than yours. And we should be able to subscribe or unsubscribe or pick and choose the services that we want, period.
Well, okay, I'd like to point something out, too. So we were just talking about was it 9,000 years or was it 1,000 years? And the way that we know that it was definitely 1,000 years and maybe not so definitely 9,000 years is the written record, right?
Sure.
Now, when that particular monk was making his record, I don't think he fucking had in mind that a bunch of anarchists were going to be looking at that later and going, see, there's the record and this is why this is important. He doesn't fucking need to know that. He doesn't need to know that part of the importance of keeping that record is that we'll be able to prove that this idea fucking works and that maybe we can have a little bit more peace in the world because we proved that the idea works. He doesn't have to know that. It's just important that he keeps the record. Okay. Now, with all of this stuff, we don't know. We don't know what they're going to use it for later down the road, but being able to have a perfect and complete record of things for essentially free is going to be an extremely useful tool down the road.
That only appeals to you as a history buff. I don't care. I don't need to keep a record.
Also, how do you know he wasn't sitting there going, I'm going to write the shit down so some motherfucker in the future.
You're doing it.
Well, right, but
so he might have been.
No, my point is that the specific application of it, it doesn't matter if he knew that or not.
Yeah.
But he wrote it down, and the fact that he made the record means that we have all of these abilities that he wasn't going to imagine New Hampshire.
Right.
He wasn't going to imagine the Free State Project. But that's okay. He doesn't have to. We can still use the record and still gain the wisdom from having had the record. And in the same way, I have no idea what the future is going to use these records for.
The other really interesting
they're going to be valuable.
The other really interesting thing is that we know through records and history of statism that to the victor goes the writings in the history book, right?
Okay.
And has for, whoever wins the wars writes the history books, right? Well, for the first time ever, we have the ability for history to be tracked not by the winner of the wars, but by human beings themselves individually.
Well, if you get conquered, they're going to destroy whatever records you have digitally as well.
They fucking can't.
Can't destroy the blockchain.
You absolutely can destroy the blockchain.
No, you can't.
Yes, you can.
How?
Because it exists on digital computers somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And much like they burn down...
Not somewhere.
On many.
Everywhere.
Not everywhere, because the entire world isn't on your fucking blockchain.
So are they going to come and destroy the entire world to just get rid of the blockchain?
It's basically what it would take.
If they're conquering, they're going to take something.
I mean, if it's like aliens from another planet, perhaps they would destroy the Earth just so they could take over it, in which case none of it would matter anyway.
Do you think the Argentinians give a shit about the history of the United States on the blockchain?
I mean, what does that matter?
It doesn't. That's the thing.
I'm completely confused by the question. The history of the United States on the blockchain?
You have the history of the world, whatever.
They sure as fuck would want to know about the history of their own geographic area.
Okay. But they're not the ones that just got conquered.
Well.
So they don't care. Nobody cares.
No, that's the beauty of it. I'm not keeping the records in my own little place that can get conquered. I'm keeping the records all over the planet.
You have servers set up all over the planet.
No, the blockchain does.
Yes, I do.
The blockchain does.
You do.
I do.
Okay.
And everything...
I hardly can
every
take
single
anything else you say seriously.
Every
if you're
single
claiming
fucking
to own
transaction.
servers all over the
I
fucking
don't
planet.
own them. I just get to operate them. And every fucking transaction that I put onto BTC, I guarantee you will be on a shit ton of servers around the world. Forever.
And already is.
Not forever.
Essentially.
Not even essentially.
All right.
Close enough for all practical purposes.
Richie Rich,
and
Peakless Mountaineer.
To your point, one final point.
We're out of time.
The fact that there are individual preferences negates the concept of the collective bargaining Tuatha. Because we're all going to have individual things, and we're not always going to agree on like one thing all the way straight down the line.
Does individual
we can agree on money well enough.
Does individual preferences negate the market?
It doesn't negate the market. It's what creates the market.
There we go. All right, Richie Rich, thank you so much. Peakless Mountaineer, thank you so much. Beard Talk Live is taking a bit of a pause, so do not expect us next week. When we do return, we will let everybody know. Before we do, I want to end this particular episode of Beard Talk Live with a song by a punk rock band out of California. They're still playing out. They're a bunch of older dudes. They're classic punk rock, if you will. This song is called I Hate the Government. And this has been Beard Talk Live. Thanks. Peace.